You ain't gotta say a word, just walk that, let's get burned. Then we'll roll up 100 fucking blunts. All up in my mouth, now I'm all up in yo. This nigga got pounds of it, all up in his trunk. Now we both look Asian, he waving and I'm drunk. I got dank shit in my cup, you know what I'ma do to you. I could give reviews to you, blow, we X, and we sipping on that juice. That's just what she choose to do.
To you.
Hey, Century. There are times when I look above and beyond. There are times when I feel your love around me, baby. I'll never forget my baby. When I feel that I don't belong, draw my strength from the words when you said, hey, it's about you, baby. Look deeper inside you, baby. Dream about us together again. What I want us together again, baby. I know we'll be together again, 'cause everywhere I go, every smile I see, I know you are there, smiling back at me, dancing in moonlight. I know you are free, 'cause I can see your star shining down on me. Time will share again. Makes me wanna dance. See you loud and proud. All my love's for you. Always been a true angel to me. Now above, I can wait for you to wrap your wings around me, baby. Wrap them around me, baby. Sometimes hear whispering on my pain. No worries, will you ever see my baby? I'm so happy for my baby. Dream about us together again. What I want us together again, baby. I know we'll be together again, 'cause everywhere I go, every smile I see, I know you are there, smiling back at me, dancing in moonlight. I know you are free, 'cause I can see your star shining down on me.
at 5 in the morning. I wake up to 5 for my earnings. The fear in my mind is a warning. Pray to the one you're relying. I've been wandering all day. I tried to be fine, but I can't be. The noise in my mind wouldn't leave me. I tried to get by, but I'm burning. I'm behind, my mind it runs. All these thoughts have troubled me. Fighting to give up my pain. Fighting to be on my lane. My mind running to the other side. When it's time to leave my life, then it tries to take me out. Tell you what I need, right? Yeah, I really need time now. I need to free mind now. I really need mind now. I need to free my mind now. I really need time now. I need to free mind now. I really need mind now. Yeah. This is the peace that you cannot buy. Send me a love that you cannot mix. One is the joy that you cannot waste, and the other one price that you cannot fix. This is the peace that you cannot buy. Finding a way where you cannot see. Man with this system, he cannot pray. I need to find relief. But behind my mind, it runs. All these thoughts have troubled me. Fighting to give up my pain. Fighting to be on my lane. My mind running to the other side. When it's time to leave my life, then it tries to take me out. Tell you what I need. I really need my dog. I need to free my dog. I really need time now. I need to free my mind now. I really need time now. I need to free my dog. I really need time now. Oh, yeah. Just let me free, freer than the open mind, farther than the eyes can handle, freer than the ocean now. Yeah. So set me free. Now I need to find relief. Set me to the open sky. Now I need to free my mind.
Drop top force, 40 on my wrist, diamonds up and down my chain. Cardi B straight stunning, can't tell me that the bossed up and not changed again. It's my big bronze boogie got all them girls shook. My big fat ass got all them boys cooked. Some dollar bills, now we popping rubber bands. Bruno sang to me while I do my money dance like, yeah. Flexing on the gram like, yeah. Hit the little John, okay. Oh yeah, we dripping up in this again.
Ooh, don't we look good together? There's a reason why they watch all night long. Yeah, I know we'll turn heads forever. So tonight I'm gonna show you off. But when I'm walking with you, I watch the whole room change. Baby, that's what you do. No, my baby don't play. Blame it on my confidence. I'm blaming on your measurements. Shut the shit down on sight. That's right. It don't make no sense. Now slow it down for me, baby. 'Cause I love the way it feels when we grind. Yeah. Our connection's so magnetic on the floor. Nothing can stop us tonight. I'm walking with you. I watch the whole world change. Baby, that's what you do. No, my baby don't play. Blame it on my confidence. I'm blaming on your measurements. Shut the shit down on sight. That's right. It don't make no sense. You know it.
Good morning, y'all. Hey, Melissa. Hey, Tulips. Well, I'm sorry, y'all. Afternoon. I'm sorry. Good afternoon. Um, Happy Wednesday, everybody. Look, we're gonna get right into the. Before we get into any content or talking about all the developments that have come out on this case since I've been away. We're gonna get caught up on, but I'm gonna start off by playing this press conference that was just held today. I don't know how many of you have already seen it, but it happened a couple of hours or so ago, and we're gonna listen to this press conference, and then we're gonna get in. We're gonna talk about some of the developments that they talked about in this press conference and also over the weekend. Okay, thank y'all for coming. Make sure y'all double tap the screen, and we're gonna get into it. Let's see.
My name is Sharon Williams, Senior Vice President of Marketing Communications with the NAACP. We are here because a demand was made, a demand for transparency, a demand for answers, and a demand for ultimate justice on behalf of Nolan Wells. And that demand must be honored. For that, we're honored to pause even for a moment to respond accordingly here at our National Convention. Momentarily, you will hear from renowned civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump,
Happy Wednesday.
who will provide updates on the findings of the independent autopsy that was conducted in the death of Nolan Wells. Immediately following that, we will take questions from credentialed media. We'll attempt to answer as many questions as we can. However, we want to be respectful of the fact that we do have additional programming that is going on to conclude our convention today as well. So we're asking to all present media, if you're asking questions, please be concise. Give your name, give your media credential, and we'll go from there. But before he comes, we will have the leader of the NAACP, President Derek Johnson, to give opening remarks. President Johnson.
Good morning. Good morning. Far too often our young people are confronted with challenges, and many jurisdictions and states don't take those challenges serious. We cannot allow another individual, particularly a young black man's death, go uninvestigated. We have seen this happen over the years, not only in Mississippi, but across the country. It's unfortunate that our young people only seek to enjoy life, and as a result of participating in activities no longer have life. For the NAACP, we take this in many other cases serious because every person matters. I want to thank the Mississippi State Conference, particularly Alitra Perryman, for working with the family and supporting the family on their onset. Because it's difficult to lose a loved one, it's even more difficult to navigate a process when all eyes are on you. And the pressure of balancing between grieving and navigating is upon you. And so for the NAACP family, this is our role, is to step in, to support when families have an issue like this, and the local officials seem not to hold people accountable. It's unfortunate when you see news reports and law enforcement officials are repeating what individuals are saying as opposed to investigate the individuals who gave you the information, because you don't know who was involved or not involved. Amen. And so narrative matters in this case. And we're saying that in Nolan Wells' situation, the narrative should not be it was an accident before there was an investigation. The narrative should not be the words of individuals who went on a boat to the island with him, but they came without him, but with his cell phone. You don't investigate those individuals. We're not accusing anyone of anything other than the state of Mississippi and local officials. We're accusing them of being derelict in their duties to follow up and to ensure that regardless of what happened, that there was the proper investigation so that this family and that community can be assured that if anyone was involved, they would be held accountable. And if it wasn't truly an accident, that the families will have the necessary answers that any family deserves in this situation. I want to bring to the podium Attorney Benjamin Crump, a friend of mine who have stepped in to take the case and in support of the family to ensure that they get the answers that they deserve. and that local officials and anyone involved will be held accountable to this family, to that system, because we are all parents, siblings, to loved ones who should not be confronted with this reality. Attorney Crump.
Thank you very much, President Derrick Johnson, for your leadership, for the leadership of the Mississippi Conference of NAACP, and being there during the homegoing services to help the family go through what no parents want to go through. Thank you to Chairman Leon Russell, my longtime mentor from Florida, who helped raise so many of us. Thank you for always being there, Chairman Russell. As President Johnson said, I'm Attorney Ben Crump, representing the family of Nolan Wells, but it's not just me, it is a team effort of incredible, dedicated lawyers and investigators and paralegals. Attorney Lisa Park, attorney who you'll hear from in a few minutes, Attorney Eric Hertz, Attorney Gary Buchan, Attorney Camila Moore, Cliff Jones, Jared Presson, Alan Williams, our whole team of people who are committed, as I said, President Johnson, on this ferocious search for the truth of what really happened to Nolan Wells. But before we begin to discuss the intricacies of the preliminary findings of the independent autopsy, we think it would be appropriate for you all to hear from the people who knew Nolan Wells best, so they can thank you themselves and tell you about the trials and tribulations that they have been enduring since July 4th. July 4th will never be the same for them. I bring to the podium Nolan Wells' mother and father, Christine and Elmore. Please give them a warm NAACP welcome.
First of all, I want to say thank you all so much. Thank you to President Johnson as well as Chairman Russell. This has been a difficult journey. Losing a child, it truly breaks your heart. It is a pain that is just, you can't measure it. Especially someone like Nolan, who brought so much joy and light and life to everyone. You don't find too many genuine people like him. So to lose that light at such a young age under these circumstances has been absolutely difficult, which is why we've gone this route. There's so many people out in the public asking all of these questions, but the only question that we have is what happened to our son. That is the only question. We have consistently been degraded by the public. There's been questions about our parenting, our GoFundMe, this, that, and other. I've been called a racist. I am a healthcare provider, and I take my job very seriously. I love everyone. And it's been difficult for us, but we are leaning into our faith, leaning into one another, also leaning into all of you. There are not enough thank yous, not enough appreciation
Boogie,
for
thank
what you
you.
guys have done for us, and we do. We love you from the bottom of our heart.
I don't know. I guess it might be Lauren Crime's microphone. It sounds a little static on my end. Probably sounds static on y'all end too. But I mean, it's tolerable. I just noticed it, and I think it may be their microphone. I don't know. I'm gonna go listen on my other device and see if it's them. I don't know. Thank you, L Boogie. Y'all come on in. Welcome back. Y'all hit that, double tap that screen and like the live. After this press conference, y'all, we're gonna get into the content and we're gonna get into everything that has taken place since I've been off, like pretty much over the weekend. Also, we're gonna talk about these autopsy reports. This autopsy report. I got a couple of things I want to say about the funeral. But yeah, we'll get into all that after this press conference plays out. Hey, Ms. Lynn. All right, y'all. So I'll be watching the chat, but let's listen.
Thank you. And so it is our hope that our local authorities will do what they need to do, because us having the preliminary autopsy results and hearing nothing from them, it's heartbreaking and it's concerning, which again is why we are here, why we have asked for this help. So again, thank you all so much for your support. We appreciate you. We really do.
Um, every day I wake up, it's a new challenge. Knowing that a part of me I would never talk to,
Oh, thank you, Miss Leah. I did.
I would never
Thank
play
you.
around with or get mad at. It's not here anymore. Nolan brought a lot of joy to our family. He was the wittiest one out of everyone. The clown. Um, he he loved to put in the work because he wanted to be the best. He wanted to make Lynn's mother proud, and we were so proud of him just for being the person that he was. He was loving. All his teachers knew him, but loved him. He walks in the room, his aura, you're automatically drawn to it. Um, never met an enemy, and if they were, they would eventually be friends because they would eventually bond, and it's gonna be hard. He should be at football practice right now, calling me out to practice. Yeah, I made this play, or I made that play, or I get a text with 3 or 4 videos of him doing this, making run this route, making this block, and what you think, what you think I should do. And I would give my honest, because I always tell you, if anyone is going to be totally honest with you, it's going to be me. It's not because I'm being mean, but people outside your family are going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to know to make you better. It's going to be hard for our family from here on out. And like I said, every day is a challenge. We're going to miss our son. And like my wife said, we just want honesty. We want to know what happened to our son, because the things that you're telling us, that's not the character of our son. We know our son. I understand, our children would do things that, that would kind of dumbfound us sometimes, but the things that we're being told, there wasn't no. So please keep us in your prayers, keep him in your prayers, and we're going to keep pushing and fighting until we find answers. Thank you guys for your love and support.
Thank you so much, Christine and Nolan. Christine and Elmore, Nolan's mother and father. Before we start to go over the preliminary findings from the independent autopsy.
Okay, y'all. So I figured out Law and Crimes. Their stream was staticky, so I found it on another platform. So I'm going to switch it up because I can't. Y'all know how I am about sound and stuff. I'm very OCD. Like, so I'm gonna drop this and we're gonna come back with on another one. Hold on. Let's see. Uh-oh. Wrong one. Wrong one, wrong one. Hold on. Did it not save it? Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm gonna go back to where it was the parents. I don't think they. Okay, we was at the end of the dad, so I'll go right here. We don't have to be listening to all the other. Okay. Let me bring it back up, y'all. Not telling you what to do, but his was clear. I listened to it myself. It was kind of static. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but anywho, here we go.
Just knew him, but loved him. He walks in the room, his aura, you're automatically drawn to. Never met an enemy, and if they were, they would eventually be friends because they would eventually bond. And it's gonna be hard. He should be at football practice right now, calling me after practice. Dad, I made this play, or I made that play, or I get a text with 3 or 4 videos of him doing this, run this route, making this block. And what you think? What you think I should do? And I will give my honest, because I always tell them, if anyone is going to be totally honest with you, it's going to be me. And it's not because I'm being mean, but people outside your family are going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to know to make you better. It's going to be hard for our family from here on out. And like I said, every day is a challenge. We're going to miss our son. And like my wife said, we just want honesty. We want to know what happened to our son, because the things that you're telling us, that's not the character of our son. We know our son. I understand, our children would do things that, that would kind of dumbfound us sometimes, but the things that we're being told, that wasn't Nolan. So please keep us in your prayers, keep him in your prayers, and we're going to keep pushing and fighting until we find answers. Thank you guys for your love and support.
Thank you so much, Christine and Nolan. Christine and Elmore, Nolan's mother and father. Before we start to go over the preliminary findings from the independent autopsy, we will hear from Attorney Lisa Park to tell you about who was the forensic pathologist who conducted the autopsy. Attorney Lisa Park.
Thank you. Dr. Roger Mitchell could not join us today, but we felt it important before we reveal and unfold this report that you understand who conducted this autopsy. Dr. Roger Mitchell is a physician and board-certified forensic pathologist with 2 decades of experience. He currently serves as the president of the National Medical Association, which is the oldest and largest group of Black physicians in the U.S. Most recently, he also served as president of Howard University Hospital, chief medical officer of the Howard University Faculty Practice Plan, and chair of the Department of Pathology. Before joining Howard, he served as chief medical examiner for Washington, D.C. from 2014 to 2021, and is later as interim deputy mayor for the Public Safety and Justice. Dr. Mitchell has conducted and managed thousands of autopsies and is nationally recognized for his work at the intersection of medicine, public health, and justice. And for this case, we sought out the very best, and we are proud to be working with the very best.
Thank you, Attorney Park. I again want to express our gratitude to President Johnson, Chairman Russell, and the NAACP, because
Thank you, Candy.
civil rights is more important than ever in the United States of America today. And so we thank you for the civil rights leaders stepping up to say that our children's lives matter now more than ever. And I want to thank all of you for getting up 8 in the morning if people could see how many people are gathered here, they would say, you all are truly blessed to have the support of America, Christine and Elmore. And I want to thank the media for covering this matter, because they don't always cover when our children are taken away from us in highly unquestionable ways. And I do understand there's a lot of news going on in America today. I woke up to them saying LeBron James is going to announce where he's going to play basketball next year. But I'm very happy that the media said this story is just as important. It's just as important. And I'm sure LeBron James and Rich Paul and, Stephon Curry and Draymond Green, Jaylen Brown, Embiid, Maxey, Giannis, Bam, and many other players in the National Basketball Association will all agree that our children's lives are far more important than where LeBron or any other player will play next year. And so that's why I thank you all for being here, because this news is as important as any news in the United States of America, finding out why is Nolan Wells dead. And I want to thank you all who have called the call center. I want to thank Reverend Al Sharpton. I want to thank Mr. Tyler Perry. I want to thank Mr. Terry Owens for putting up the $125,000 reward for anybody out there who have information so we can get to the truth of what happened. I mean, any videos, and we've gotten so many videos, President Johnson, from that day from young people, and we want them to have the courage to come forward with the pictures, what you heard. I know people say there were a lot of disturbances out there. Some believe it involved Nolan. All of those things are important to get to the truth of what happened. The fact, Christine, that the United Cajun Navy are so forthcoming. The fact that they told us, we haven't heard from any of their local officials, that Nolan was found face down, fully clothed. Well, that's significant to us because the last time we saw him on the videos, he was without a shirt. So at what point did he put on a shirt? Somebody saw something. Somebody knows something. There were almost 300, 400 people. Somebody knows something. So, Scott X, we're trying to just make sure people understand that you can call the Nolan Wells tip line at bencrump.com. We will gladly listen to you, take any information as we try to put together this puzzle of what happened to Nolan Wells. And today, we're going to add some more parts to this puzzle because my legal team and I, we stand for truth, no matter who it implicates or who it exonerates. We stand for justice, no matter who it convicts or it acquits. Yeah, and we stand for transparency because we got eyes that can see, and we don't need government officials having to narrate it for you and me. We can see it for ourselves. Transparency. That leads to the truth. The truth is the foundation for accountability and justice. And that's all we're seeking, as Christina Elmore said from day one. So with that, and Christina Elmore, if you all want to sit, we're about to go through this autopsy. And I know it may be a little emotional. Thank you, President. You want me to stay? So, you got the pointer? Let's go through this. How does the pointer work? Okay, let me do that right now. How does this pointer? As we begin to present the preliminary findings of the autopsy, we want to especially thank Mr. Colin Kaepernick for not thinking it robbery to pay for the autopsy. Is this the first chart? Let's go with the first one. Put it right on. So, where's the second page up? Put this one in the far end. I need the second page. That's the real one. Give me Nolan's picture. Give me Nolan's picture. An autopsy will be provided for the media at press@bencrump.com. And so, Mr. Jones, keep that. I don't need this one. I just need this one here. Pull this closer. So, pull this up here. So, Dr. Roger Mitchell, board-certified forensic pathologist, performed a preliminary report on the death of Nolan Xavier Wells. He conducted and presented this report on July 19th, 2026. Preliminary report, second autopsy, death of Nolan Xavier Wells. Cause of death, undetermined, pending investigation. And we'll explain that as we go through the report this morning. The manner of death, undetermined, pending investigation. Statement of examination. This forensic pathologist was retained to perform a second autopsy examination on the body of Nolan Xavier Wells. Name of decedent, Nolan Xavier Wells. Age, 18 years old. Race, black. Gender, male. Date of death, unknown. Second autopsy date was performed on July 10th, 2026. Preliminary findings. And this is significant. Focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region. He said the etiology is unknown at this time. He said the body was received after the initial autopsy. He said the body had marked decompensation. He said corona incision of the scalp, brain removal, Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso, and he talked about the organs being removed, as is common, accompanied in the body cavity. And that when you have an autopsy, the organs are removed from the body and they're dissected and examined, and then they're put back in a bag within inside the body. So when they're buried, their remains will all be with them. But in this occasion, if there's going to be a second autopsy, then the organs are put in the body cavity so the second pathologist could be able to examine the organs as well. Very significant for Dr. Mitchell was that the anterior inner neck structures were absent, not received with the body. And we'll explain that in just a minute. And then it talks about the additional procedures performed during the second autopsy, and we'll go into the paragraphs on that there because he explains it better in his narrative. So where's the first page of the discussion? Not the diagram yet. You can keep the diagram over there. Move this back, Lisa. So he talks in the preliminary discussion opinion. This forensic pathologist identified several limitations during the second autopsy that create barriers to establishing a definitive cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells. And that's important. He talks about the fact that we didn't get to see the body when it was first recovered, like the medical examiner working for Mississippi would have seen it. He talked about the second autopsy performed on Nolan Wells revealed marked decompensation or changes. Marked decompensation can obscure the presence and absence of bruising on the skin surface, especially during a second autopsy examination. What he's saying, because the body was so decomposed that you couldn't tell if there was bruises or abrasions on the body when he received it on the 10th of July. For these reasons, additional dissection procedures not performed during the first autopsy examination were performed to rule out potential blunt force injuries responsible for the death. These procedures included facial dissection, posterior head and neck dissection, dissection of the ribs, the pelvic, dissection of the subcutaneous and deep soft tissue, dissection of the back, the buttocks, the arms, and legs. He did all of this to rule out things. He ruled out there were no fractures or deep tissue injuries identified. This was very important because he wanted to be very thorough and very transparent, because transparency is the key to getting to the answers of why Nolan Wells is not with us. So he did that there and was very straightforward, very open, very open. He says, however, dissection of the back of the head during the layered posterior neck dissection revealed a 12 by 8 inch focal area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissues overlaying the occipital bone. And he talked about how he found red discoloration when he cut open into the back of his head towards the occipital bone, and he saw the red discoloration, and we actually saw the pictures of it. It's significant. You can't help but notice, why is this dark red here in the back of his head? And so he was important to note that in his report. He said that etiology of this finding is unclear. There are no lacerations of the overlaying skin nor fractures of the underlying skull. These findings are inconclusive for perimortem injury due to both the extensive decomposition and the absence of associated injuries. This finding, however, is significant enough to be highlighted in this preliminary report for further investigation. It is important to reiterate that the finding could not have been observed in the first autopsy because the posterior head and neck dissection were not performed. He said another limitation, move this back here. Another limitation faced by this forensic pathologist was the absence of the anterior internal neck structures, the trachea and the body.
I don't know what y'all looking at or what y'all see. Hold on a minute. Oh, Keyshawn, come here. Hold on, y'all. Okay, y'all. What I was about to say was hold on. It's not showing. He should have. I don't know why y'all not seeing yourselves as mods. I see y'all as mods on StreamYard, and I also see you in blue on my YouTube app. So I don't know what y'all not seeing. I don't know. But anywho, I see y'all as mods. Maybe you should go out and come back in. I don't know. All right, y'all, here we go.
So he's saying that the throat was not received with the body when he got Nolan Wells' body in Washington, D.C. to perform the second autopsy. And so let's discuss that with what he said about that. He said, it is assumed that the initial pathologist retained these structures for additional evaluation. He said the retention of the anterior neck structures during an initial autopsy is a common forensic pathology practice. He was chief medical examiner for 7 years in Washington, D.C. And he said that if they had concern about throat or any fracture or compression of the throat, they too will hold them back. He doesn't know why they held the throat back, but he said the throat was not with the body of Nolan Wells when he received it in Washington, D.C. to perform the second autopsy. He said, nevertheless, a posterior neck dissection performed without review of the anterior neck structures is incomplete. Therefore, this pathologist cannot rule out injury to the neck as a contributor or a cause of death. He said he would need to have the medical examiner in Mississippi allow him to review the throat. That's why he said his autopsy is undetermined pending investigation. Remember, it's about transparency. Because the initial autopsy rightfully removed and dissected each organ, there are additional limitations inherent in the second autopsy of Nolan Wells. The most significant of the limitations was the inability to directly observe the airway and the lungs for water and directly observe the stomach for gastric contents. He said it is very significant as to what the initial forensic scientists who got to review the body when it was recovered. We have heard from our call center people saying the body wasn't waterlogged. Well, we need to know those things. But unfortunately, because the body was decomposed and the organs have already been dissected, those are things we can only get from the initial autopsy. So therefore, again, the manner and cause of death is undetermined until further investigation. We are hopeful that the Mississippi medical examiner would give Dr. Mitchell an opportunity to see their photographs and their observations to the condition of Nolan Wells' body closer in time to July 4th. That is very important, and we have to continue to demand transparency, President Johnson. In addition, the original toxicology results have not been received at the time of this report. And we continue to wait for the toxicology to come back because, again, that will be part of the investigation into Nolan Wells' autopsy by Dr. Mitchell. It is significant to note that it's many things that go into toxicology that only Dr. Mitchell would be able to opine upon, and medical experts can opine upon. And he feels the proper place to do that is before a grand jury in a courtroom. And so we would hope that the district attorney would present Dr. Mitchell before the grand jury as well. We want all relevant information to be heard by the grand jury. Lastly, in cases where a death has occurred in or around a body of water, this is important. Lastly, in cases where a death has occurred in or around a body of water with suspicion of drowning, it is important to confirm how that person entered the water. This is the crux of the matter. This information is especially important for those deaths of persons who can swim. As in the case with Nolan Wells, at the time of this report, this forensic pathologist does not know the condition of Nolan Wells. He did not know whether he was conscious or unconscious when he entered the water. He said that would be significant. He said he did not know whether he was forced into the water or unforced into the water. He said that would be significant. So he said the condition of Nolan Wells before he entered the water would be the crux of the matter. It would be of utmost importance to being able to determine a cause and manner of death. He said definitive circumstances of death are required to determine the manner of death. For these reasons, they really call your attention to this. For these reasons, this pathologist cannot rule out if any intervening non-accidental factors contributed to or caused the death of Nolan Wells. Understand, he's saying based on the examination of the body, he cannot rule out foul play. That is significant. With the following questions still outstanding, number one, what were the circumstances that led to Nolan Xavier Wells entering the water? Number two, what was the body position when it was found? We know that a member of the United Cajun Navy said that he was face down and he was fully clothed. Number three, where's there water in the airway? Remember, we talked about the lungs and the airways, where they filled with water. Number four, is there any evidence of injuries to the anterior neck structure? We got the autopsy without his neck. We got the body without his neck at the time of the second autopsy. Number five, is there any evidence of any intracranial hemorrhaging? He said that is going to be very significant, things that he could not observe at autopsy that the initial medical examiner would have been able to observe. Number six was the composition of what was the composition of the stomach contents? He talks about that being important because when was he found? How long had he been in the water? How long had it been since his last meal? All those things become relevant factors when you're trying to do a thorough and impartial autopsy. And number seven, what are the toxicology report findings? He said the best classification again for the cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells is undetermined pending investigation. This forensic pathologist reserves the right to review and incorporate additional forensic pathology information into his opinion as it becomes available. He says the above opinions are expressed to a reasonable degree of medical certainty. Dr. Roger A. Mitchell, July 19, 2026. And we know that, as I said, this is only another part of the puzzle. And even though it tells us significant information, we still have more questions than we have answers at this time. And we will continue to press forward and persist, Christine and Elmore, with getting the answers to these questions. Because as you, yes, we will persist, because as Christine and Elmore and Attorney Parker and I talked this morning, we know that there are so many conflicting stories. The fact that she said him being found face down, the fact that we have other videos where people who have called said that is Nolan, who is in some kind of dispute with others. We're looking at all of these things. The fact that the GPS tracking of the boat is being questioned by many. We're trying to dot every I and cross every T, because we understand that when our children's lives are at stake, it matters. Not just what happened, but what we do in the aftermath of them being taken away from us. And just like the NAACP stood up when another tragedy in Mississippi, taking the life of young Emmett Till, we would stand up for Nolan Wells. Just like civil rights leaders stood up when another Mississippi son was taken in Medgar Evers. We would stand up for Nolan Wells. And just like too many of our young people, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Botham Jean, Terrence Crutcher, Stephon Clark, Sandra Bland, Atiana Jefferson, Alton Sterling, Eric Gardner, George Floyd, Tamir Rice, the young people who I was trying to focus on. Gary, we stand up until we get the truth, until we get justice for Nolan Wells. 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 We will ask if Christine and Elmore and President Johnson can come back and join us on the stage, and Trevon, we will have you coordinate questions and answers for us or President Johnson or Attorney Park and I. I will say this, as President Johnson comes to the stage, I was sharing this with him and Chairman Russell, Christine Clark. God knows we wish we had you at the Department of Justice now. Christine Clark. As I was sharing with President Johnson and Reverend Al and others, this is so important that we continue to talk about Nolan Wells and what happened to him, and that we get attention on him, because in getting attention on him, it brings attention, Cliff Jones, to other cases that are not getting the attention as of yet. But I'm so grateful to Christine and Elmore, because they said whatever we can do, not only to help our son, but to help these other young black boys who was killed the July 4th holiday. And I want to take a moment before we answer your questions to talk about two other young black men, both 18 years old, who were killed in extraordinary ways that are very similar to Nolan. President Johnson, 18-year-old Daniel Irvins went on a fishing trip, out on a fishing boat with two other young men. He was the only black. It is alleged that he ended up accidentally drowning, but his two white friends got his cell phone and threw it away, got his clothes and threw it away, and then went and deleted all of their text messages with him and social media. Sounds familiar? And they've only been charged with tampering with evidence. And his mother is crying out that they should be charged with murder, because if they will lie about his cell phone and his clothes and deleted messages, then they will lie about what really happened to Daniel Irvins. And then there's the matter, President Johnson, Christine Clark, of 18-year-old Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith, on 4th of July, was at a house party with about 10 other people. He was the only black person at the house. He somehow ends up shot in the head, dead. Some of the friends get rid of the gun. The police show up. They tell the police it was an accident. It was an accidental shooting, that they were playing Russian roulette. And Tyler Smith ended up getting killed. And apparently, Christine Clark, President Johnson, the police just took their word for it. His mother and grandmother are incensed. They asked the police, did you do a gunshot residue test on his hands? And the reason they said they had to call us, like Daniel Irvins and Nolan Wells' family, because the police told them, President Johnson, that there was no need to do gunshot residue on his hands or any of the other people in the house, because I don't understand this logic, but they said if they were playing Russian roulette, then all of them will have gunshot residue on their hands. So we don't need to do gunshot residue tests. It makes no sense whatsoever. So they are taking the word of these 10 people that your son just killed himself. And you don't have to worry about doing any investigation or testing forensically anything. Just take our word for it. Now, can you imagine in any three of these scenarios, had the survivors been young black men and they were with a young white man and he ended up dead, what kind of investigation would that have been? What kind of interrogation would that have been? Would they have ever been able to see the light of day until those questions were answered? Well, just like you would do a thorough investigation for your children, we want you to do a thorough investigation for our children. We don't want anything special. We just want equal justice. Equal justice. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Trevon to lead us in the final session.
We have a few questions. We have my colleagues on either side with microphones. Please announce your name and your media outlet if you have any questions. We're going to be quick because we have other programming going on in real time. We'll go here first.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everybody. Samantha Chapman, ABC7 Chicago. You just unveiled a comprehensive outline of the independent report. Can you summarize for our viewers, because there's a lot to take in, a lot of information. So in summary, can you succinctly tell us what we can take away from this report? And also, if you can provide more details about the neck. Yep. I heard a lot of people behind me gasping when that detail was mentioned.
Yep. Let me try to be very comprehensive. As Dr. Roger Mitchell said, that the focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region, is significant because he cannot determine why you have that red discoloration in the back of his brain. That's significant. He also talked about, Mr. Williams, if you can, just the fact that as it's common practice, he was missing his throat when they received the body. And he wants to know why they held it back. He's not drawing any conclusions, but he said he would want to examine it if there were neck fractures or compressions to the neck. And he thinks that's significant to know at autopsy. The reason he says he would hold it back when he was medical examiner because he thought that there may have been some issues with neck fractures. The last thing that is significant is what we said before about him, the condition of his body when he went into the water. Was he conscious or unconscious? Was he forced or unforced into the water? He said those things are very significant. But he started off talking about this red discoloration in the back of his head is something that was of great concern to him. Thank you. Trayvon.
We'll go here.
Daryl Denard with Chicago Speaks on V103. What specifically are you calling for from Mississippi authorities in terms of transparency, but more importantly, investigations?
I know President Johnson is from the state of Mississippi, and the Mississippi Conference president is here. They're calling, as we are, for a fair, impartial, comprehensive investigation. When Nolan's parents heard the sheriff say there's no foul play at the beginning of the investigation, that is cause for concern, major concern. You haven't even investigated, but you're saying no foul play. And so we want them to dot every I and cross every T. You know, we had a meeting with the district attorney, and we expressed to them about our lived experiences. The fact, and you know, they said that's not what happens in her office, but we said we believe if the roles were reversed and there were 3 young black 18-year-olds and there was a white 18-year-old who was with them and he ended up dead, we don't believe that those young black men would not have been interrogated to the full extent of the law. We believe that it would not have been a choice whether they were going to cooperate with law enforcement if their lawyers and them were going to cooperate. No, they would have been held until they gave answers. They would have been held until they explained the cell phone in their possession. They would have been held until their cell phones have been examined. And so whatever you would do, had the roles been reversed, we want you to do the same thing for Nolan Wales.
We have time for one more question, and then we're going to have a prayer with our Religious Affairs Committee with the family. One more question here. What's there?
I'm Tiffany Walden with the Tribe in Chicago. I know that we're talking about a transparent investigation, but for families and people who are watching, can you kind of give a breakdown or a timeline to the best of your ability of the contact that you've had with Mississippi authorities or Ocean Springs authorities or the Cajun Navy? Have you all talked to them? Do they call you after the initial autopsy? Is it just radio silence from them? Do you have to call them? Can you kind of walk us through that process?
So the last time we actually spoke with local authorities, which would be the sheriff's department, was I think a day or two after his body was found. That was only initiated by me. I sent him a text message. I was like, hey, this is Christine, Nolan's mom. I just want to see if there are any updates. Basically, he called back. There were no updates. He's like, we're still interviewing. And again, my concern, and also my husband's concern, was it was not even an hour that his body had been removed. And the sheriff came out and said, this is, accidental drowning. We don't think there's foul play.
Again, that is why we're doing what we're doing and why we're moving the way we are. Because I sat there and asked them, please take this case as if this is your child, your family member, your whatever. And they promised that they would. But when you make statements like that straight out the gate, that's an issue. We did meet with the DA. She did promise, transparency and all of this, all of that. However, damage has already been done because now that's the narrative that's being pushed by the general public, who again, know nothing really, only what they're hearing from other people. So in addition to that, it's all these things coming up. And at the end of the day, like I said before, any parent that would be in this situation, you would do anything to find out what happened to your child. And that is what we're here to do.
It is very important to note that this narrative, this suggestion that it was an accidental drowning, nothing to see here, is troubling, even if that's the case. There were 300 to 400 people out on Horns Island. You mean to tell me nobody saw anything? Nobody can tell us anything about what happened to one of the few black people that were out there on that island that day? It doesn't add up. The fact that they're saying Nolan said that he would stay behind, but yet an 18-year-old kid would not want his cell phone if he was going to stay behind. The fact that, you have the young lady saying that he said he was going to get back on the boat with the boys, and then the boys saying no, he said he was going to stay behind and talk to her. If that was the case, don't you believe Nolan would have said, give me my cell phone, I'm going to stay behind. Give me my car keys, I'm going to stay behind. It's not adding up. And so we're going to keep fighting and digging until we get the answers, the transparency, the truth, the accountability, and justice for Nolan Wells. 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 Justice for Nolan Wells.
Justice for Nolan Wells.
Justice for Nolan Wells.
Justice for Nolan Wells. We're going to have our Religious Affairs Committee join us quickly so we can have a quick word of prayer with the family, and that will conclude our press conference formally.
Good morning. It's a good morning in spite of all that we have heard. It's a good morning because we're here for justice. I'm Reverend Wendell Anthony from the Detroit branch and also a member of the National Board of Directors and part of the Religious Affairs Committee, joined by colleagues who are here. I'm going to ask all of you, if you would be so kind as to just link arms so that we can link ourselves around this particular moment and around this family. There's an old African proverb that says, those whom we love die only in the physical sense, but their spirit continues to live on in the will and determination of those whom they leave behind. Mr. and Mrs. Wells, I did not know your son, but I could tell from just looking at his photograph, I can feel the aura, the joy that you talked about. We all can experience and feel that. Ben Crump has chronicled the list of pain moments in our community by the deceased and by those who are now martyrs. We have been dying since 1619, still seeking justice. Pray with me. O Lord, our Lord, how very excellent is thy name in all the earth. We are here for but one reason, to answer the question, what does the Lord require of us? But to do justice, to love mercy, to even walk humbly with our God. Lord God, your people are here beseeching justice. We're here for transparency. We're here for truth. You who are the way, the truth, and the life. We're here because of you. Lord God, how long must we continue to pay evil a toll at the gateway towards justice? How long must we see our children lie bleeding in the streets, in the sand, in the water, in the asphalt pavements of this nation that we built? Even on July the 4th, a day that serves a lesson in mockery and dichotomy, where we talk about independence, yet we are not independent from those who seek justice. Help us, Lord. Bless us right now. Bless this family. Cover this mother whose tears fall down her cheeks. Cover this father as he remembers his son whom he taught and whom he mentored to play in life, but more importantly, to play the game the way it should be played in living. Lord God, we thank you so much. We've gone down the roads. They lied on Martin. They lied on Medgar. They lied on Malcolm. But more importantly, oh God, they lied on you. You who know about lies. We know that the truth shall eventually set us all free. Help us to get the truth, even in Mississippi. Oh Lord, help us to get the truth for our children. You know, like we know, there are more black boys in school than are in jail. We know, oh God, that there are more of us who are striving for the benefit of life rather than the poison from living. Oh Lord, how long will justice continue to lift up her brow so that she can see who is standing before us, so she can make a decision that is not in our interest, but in the interest of those who seem to be different from us? Help us, Lord. Don't we as a people bleed like everybody else? Don't we as a people need comfort like everybody else? Don't we as a people need justice like everybody else? Don't we as a people feel the pain when our children are taken from us like everybody else? Help America, Lord, because America has a problem. We don't have a problem. America has a problem. Fix the problem. In 250 years, we still seem to suffer from the same old problem. Fix America, oh God. Fix justice, oh God. Fix us, oh God. Fix Mississippi, oh God. Fix those who are standing at the gateway to break open the doors for justice. Not just us, but justice. Help us now, Lord. This is our prayer. This is our plea as we seek that which you have the power to give, and that is justice. The just shall live by their faith. The just shall live by their faith. And oh Lord, we know that when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Let's win in the name of justice. Let the people who love God, who are called according to his name for every good purpose, who believe in justice, say amen, amen, amen. Now give justice our hand praise. We praise God for justice. God bless you. President Johnson, I want you to know, and those who are here, there are 12,000 people who are looking at this press conference on YouTube. That was 30 minutes ago. There were 14,000 people who are looking at it on the roofs. That was 30 minutes ago. Ben Crump, this ain't no secret. The nation is looking for justice. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Boy, we had her at the Department of Justice. She was over the civil rights.
For media who would like a digital copy of the report, you can look at bencrump.com, and we should have a digital copy there. You can also contact Sachs Media, which is on the press release.
Okay, y'all. So, oh, excuse me. That was the press conference that was held earlier, talking about the autopsy reports. I'm sure y'all were listening. We're gonna get more into that autopsy report and its findings on tomorrow. And the reason why I wait until tomorrow is because I went on bencrump.com to get the actual digital copy of the report, but it's not up there yet. I don't know if I just didn't look in the right place or whatever, but I'm going to research it overnight. And I'm also go to that other site they mentioned to see if I can get it so we can actually read it ourselves and go through it to get a better understanding of what was being said. But I did want to go ahead and play that press conference for those who, I don't know, y'all probably already seen it because it did happen this morning, but I was on another live while it was taking place. So we're gonna cover that tomorrow, along with some other stuff because there's a whole lot I got to catch up with. But today, we're gonna get into a couple of videos that I did want to react to from this weekend or over the weekend and the last couple of days. So let me pull those up, and then we're gonna call it a day just for today. And tomorrow we'll come back with some more discussion on this. Yeah. So we're gonna go over here to Chronicle Speaks, who I think is doing
A
some of
funeral
the
service
best.
was held for Nolan Wells yesterday.
All right, doing some of the best content on this. It's a lot out there, y'all. It's a lot, and I do have a lot for us to talk about. But I'm just gonna start out with these couple of videos today. Being as though we got started late. Oh, you welcome, November Moon. We started late, and there's so much to cover. I'm going to come on a lot earlier tomorrow so we can cover as much as we can. Because like I said, we're playing catch up. All right, we're playing catch up. It's a lot out there. A lot of, oh my God, it's so much. But y'all know me. I don't react to everything. I don't, uh, necessarily repeat everything I hear or put out everything I hear, because it's all about facts. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stuff that's being said, it's just not factual, and I don't want to feed into that. All these narrations or whatever. So yeah, so let's get into Chronicle Speaks. I'm going to share this video out on my community wall. Y'all please go over, and if you do nothing else, give Chronicle Speaks a thumbs up on this video if you like her content. Subscribe to her channel. I am. Okay. All right. With that being said, let's listen and we'll talk. Any questions, put them in the chat. Okay. I'll try my best to answer them because I'm playing catch up myself. Make sure y'all double tap the screen to like the live stream to get me back in the algorithm. I've been out for, I think I want on this channel for what, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, about 4 days. So yeah, your girl got to get back in the algorithm, but it'll come. But yeah, double tap the screen to like the live. If you're in the live and you enjoy the content, please make sure you subscribe and tap that notification bell so you'll be notified each and every time I go live. All right, let's get into Chronicle Speaks, y'all. And this particular video was dropped. It was before the press conference and things of that nature. It might have been before the actual funeral, but let's see. It was dropped a day ago. Let me make sure that's the same one. I'm gonna make sure that's the same one. Nolan Wells' body. Yeah, it was dropped a day ago. Okay, so let's listen.
A funeral service was held for Nolan Wells yesterday, and after 16 heartbreaking days since he was last heard from, the 18-year-old was finally laid to rest. However, the work to uncover the truth and secure justice for Nolan is far from over. We are still awaiting the official autopsy results from the Mississippi State Medical Examiner, as well as the findings from the independent autopsy arranged by attorney Ben Crump's team. Now, we are also learning more about the condition in which Nolan was reportedly found. According to Brian Thrasher with the Cajun Navy, Nolan's body did not appear consistent with what he would have expected after someone had supposedly been in the water for approximately 2 days.
And then I noticed that there was what appeared to be a body right at the shoreline, laying face down on the sand.
The implication is that this body had washed up, unfortunately, on the shore.
That's what it looked like to me. Yeah.
Did you see any visible injuries or anything that you can speak to at that distance?
No. From that height, right? So it's the best I can do. The description matched Nolan Wells. It matched the area. It was the area where we were looking. So I had good reason to believe, even before I heard from the sheriff's office, that it was him. The swim trunks appeared to be similar color to what was reported. The one thing I'll say about the condition of the body, and again, I want to stress very, as much as I can, that I'm at 450 feet in the air. So I did not have a good ground's eye view look. But normally when a body's been floating, you'll see some bloating and whatnot. He wasn't in the water that long. The water temperature was high. He has a low body mass index. So both of those factors together, normally we'll look for a body to pop up on about day 4, but we knew it was possible he could pop up as soon as day 2. And this was day 2. But again, the body did not seem at that height to be disproportionate to the way it should look.
So according to Brian Thrasher with the Cajun Navy, Nolan's body did not appear as swollen or disproportionate as he would have expected if no
left to believe
Navy, Nolan's body did not appear as swollen or disproportionate as he would have expected if Nolan had been in the water for approximately 2 days.
So am I left to believe that he goes out swimming all on his own and the friend girl leaves, the mates from school leave, everybody just leaves him out in the water and he dies and then just conveniently washes ashore? Somebody just left him out in the water? Does that make sense to you?
Now, early this morning, TMZ posted a video, which I posted last week, of what appears to be Nolan on the back of a boat. So let's zoom in and slow it down. They're saying that this is Nolan on the back of a boat and it looks like he's getting a drink. There's an older gentleman and it looks like he's talking to an older lady. They're also on the boat. So if you go to boatsonly.com and type in Ike Pyron, then you'll find out the owner of the actual boat that Nolan came in on that we believed was Wyatt's boat, because if you recall, Warren's birth mother said that Warren did not have a boat. The boat that they came in on was Wyatt's boat. And if you look up the vessel number of the boat that they got on, according to the GPS coordinates, that vessel number is MI 4088BU. And if we go back to boatsonly.com and look up Ike Pyron's boat number, his boat number is showing MI 4088BU. Ike is also the one that made the statement, "I see you reposted this, so I just want to let you know what really happened. Can't be listening to all these black people saying his friends did something. He was with my brother that day on my boat and he chose to stay. They know who the girl is. It happens at Horn all the time. These guys posting this shit on TikTok are all worthless blacks who want nothing but views. Nolan has basically lived at my house for the last 3 years. We would never do anything to harm him." So the boat Nolan originally came in on is at the top, and the boat that he was on later is at the bottom. These are not the same boats. Now, according to TMZ, they say that you can see a couple of older adults also on board the boat, which is anchored in next.
Hold on, we're gonna go back. I'm gonna take this back and I'm gonna slow it down, because that's weird. Hold on. Damn it. Hold on, y'all. Oh.
So am I left to believe
The temperature was high. He has a low body mass index, so both of those factors together normally will look for pop up on about day 4, but we knew it was possible it could pop up as soon as day 2, and this was day 2. But again, the body did not seem at that height to be disproportionate to the way it should look.
So according to Brian Thrasher with the Cajun Navy, Nolan's body did not appear as swollen or disproportionate as he would have expected if Nolan had been in the water for approximately 2 days.
So am I left to believe that he goes out swimming all on his own and the friend girl leaves, the mates from school leave, everybody just leaves him out in the water and he dies and then just conveniently washes ashore? Somebody just left him out in the water? Does that make sense to you?
Now, early this morning, TMZ posted a video, which I posted last week, of what appears to be Nolan on the back of a boat. So let's zoom in and slow it down. They're saying that this is Nolan on the back of a boat and it looks like he's getting a drink. There's an older gentleman and it looks like he's talking to an older lady. They're also on the boat. So if you go to boatsonly.com and type in Ike Pyron, then you'll find out the owner of the actual boat that Nolan came in on that we believed was Wyatt's boat, because if you recall, Warren's birth mother said that Warren did not have a boat. The boat that they came in on was Wyatt's boat. And if you look up the vessel number of the boat that they got on, according to the GPS coordinates, that vessel number is MI 4088BU. And if we go back to boatsonly.com and look up Ike Pyron's boat number, his boat number is showing MI 4088BU. Ike is also the one that made the statement, "I see you reposted this, so I just want to let you know what really happened. Can't be listening to all these black people saying his friends did something. He was with my brother that day on my boat and he chose to stay. They know who the girl is. It happens at Horn all the time. These guys posting this shit on TikTok are all worthless blacks who want nothing but views. Nolan has basically lived at my house for the last 3 years. We would never do anything to harm him. So the boat Nolan originally came in on is at the top, and the boat that he was on later is at the bottom. These are not the same boats. Now, according to TMZ, they say that you can see a couple of older adults also on board the boat, which is anchored in neck-deep water, and there are several people hanging out nearby. Metadata shows that the video was recorded at 2:23 p.m. on July 4th, 2026. Now, while the video does not show the face of the guy on the back of the boat, the person who shot it felt strongly enough it could be Nolan that they went to the cops. Now, it was more than just these 4 guys. There were actually 3 boats that traveled together, so Nolan more than likely jumped from boat to boat. GPS coordinates were tracked for all 3 boats, but we only got information about one. So if this allegedly happened at 2:23 and the guys say that they did not see him after 3 o'clock, then they saw Nolan after this video. What happened between 2:23, 3 o'clock, and 4:30 when you guys allegedly had bilge pump issues?
The boat data came in from Nolan Wells. Okay, you did a whole lot of damn traveling for that boat to be damn messed up. Look, at 9:56 a.m., that boat leaves to go to Horn Island. Okay, green, it's fine, ain't nothing wrong with that. Look, the boat arrives at 11:14 at Horn Island. Fine, that adds up to me, right? Then you leave at 4:31 p.m. All right, so y'all had a good little time, but I don't know if Nolan Wells was on that boat or not. Something tells me that he was on that damn boat. Look, this is where it gets real fuzzy. From 4:31 to 5:52, they done took a damn U-turn. They went somewhere and they went to Fort Bayou. Okay, well, I thought the damn boat was messed up.
We're sinking. Can you all please come?
You were supposed to go from Horn Island back to the dock. Y'all took your asses to Fort Bayou. Why? What was there? The boat was messed up. Why would you go there? Look, then you leave Fort Bayou and you return to the original spot at 6:06 p.m. So from 4:31 to 6:06 p.m., there is fuzziness in here. That's about an hour and a half. If I'm not mistaken, about an hour and a half. Something happened to Nolan Wells in between this time right here. For them leaving that damn Horn Island to returning back to that, something happened at Fort Bayou. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Look, and then, look, then after 6:06 p.m., you carry your ass back to Fort Bayou. Probably to check the scene out, make sure everything's clear. For what y'all, whatever y'all damn did. So then, after 7:19, look, the boat was transported by car to Biloxi, Mississippi. Now, y'all got some explaining to do. What happened between 4:31, basically between 6:00 and 6:06? But for real, what happened between 4:31 and 7:19?
Then we have Officer Tatum, who has been condemning Ben Crump and Reverend Al Sharpton for getting involved in Nolan's case and questioning the official narrative.
I gotta say something real quick. Benjamin Crump should be ashamed of himself. Al Sharpton should be ashamed of themselves. I'm right here in Mississippi. It's crazy that I had to fly down here to even get this information. They've been lying on these boys. I got evidence, and I'm gonna show it to you, and I'm gonna lay it out for you.
Now, regardless of anyone's personal feelings about Crump or Sharpton, Nolan's family has every right to seek independent answers, demand transparency, and bring in outside advocates when they believe important questions remain unanswered. Now, regarding Officer Tatum, he also states that he has interviewed some of the boys that were there with Nolan the day of July 4th, 2026, Warren being one of the boys. Take a listen to this.
All right, I told you guys I was here doing an interview in Mississippi. I'm going to interview Warren, one of the boys that was associated with this, and we're going to just have a conversation, and we're going to talk it through, and I want to hear his side, and I want you guys to hear his side. And I'm telling you right now, because we've talked before, but I want to have his statements on the record that you're going to be shocked at some of the things that you hear, and there's going to be a few of y'all that's going to have to give an apology You just stay tuned.
Joining me now and soon. Joining me now is Revolt News Chief Political Correspondent Teslin Figaro and former police officer and host of the Officer Tatum show, Brandon Tatum. Great to see both of you. Thanks for being here. So, Brandon, let's start with you. Just from a law enforcement perspective, what do you make of the timeline, the lack of answers, what maybe occurred here?
Well, I think the first thing is that these activists just came in and brought in information or lies about circumstances to make people question. The law enforcement officers have already done an autopsy. They've already investigated. There's no sign of foul play. And one thing that's very interesting that I just found out recently is that it wasn't a situation where you have Nolan Wells and 4 of the kids at an island. There's thousands of people there. There's hundreds of different boats. So him staying behind while some of his other friends went back to the mainland wasn't that suspicious. I really wish that the family would focus on Nolan Wells' life, focus on the investigation, and let the police do their job instead of interjecting race into this situation. And it's completely unnecessary to be there at this point.
So, Teslin, you've worked with Ben Crump. You have valuable insight into how he operates. You're not speaking for him tonight, but what do you think about the timeline and whether it determines whether Nolan was still alive before the boat left the island, like his friends insist?
Yeah, thank you, Katie. I'm speaking as a mom, of a 19-year-old. In the same way Officer Tatum wishes that people would not insert lies, I wish Officer Tatum would allow the investigation, the independent investigation, to run its course. You don't know, Mr. Tatum, what has been talked about in this investigation. It has not been complete, and people have not came forward to say what happened with Nolan Wells. So I actually do believe his parents when they said that they taught their son to leave with whoever you came with. So for you to make the accusations that is a lie when they're burying their son on Monday is quite frankly to be disgusting, Officer Tatum.
Well,
and I'm ashamed.
You know what's funny? I hope that you're paying attention to this, because there's a lot of information that have come out, and I've gotten firsthand knowledge about some things that have happened on that island, and people are going to be ashamed of themselves for sitting here lying and pushing racism in this circumstance.
Well,
I don't know what happened, but I do know. I'll let you finish. I'll let you speak. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm just saying I got firsthand knowledge too. But as we're talking about right now, as we're talking about right now, you made the accusation that there were lies, that race has been interjected. Like I said last week, if people don't want people to speculate, then investigate. So this
Brandon, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that topic, because Ben Crump is notorious and has been criticized by people who have used him in the past for their cases of being an ambulance chaser, pushing a narrative that fits the racial lens that he wants it to. You've talked about this on your podcast and how you believe young black men are unfortunately killed every single day. And people like Ben Crump and Al Sharpton just highlight certain stories.
It'd be amazing me how these some of these shows or whatever, mostly Fox or whatever, or these, I'm not going to even say the group of people y'all know, that, they have these panels, and all of a sudden, Tatum is a coon. Tatum is an Uncle Tom. Tatum is one of those dudes that grew up, probably was picked on, probably got his ass whooped a lot, and he all of a sudden want to be white. He resonate with white people. He hate black people because the black people didn't like him. That's what he give me. But anywho, the thing about these shows, they get these what do I want to call them? Token blacks is what I say. Yep. They get these token blacks to get on these shows and speak, their language about us black people and what we got going on. You know what I'm saying? It's really sad. It's really sad and it's discouraging to see, but hey, it is what it is. I just, I play people where I react to people on this channel that I don't even fuck with. I would highlight some shit of a Fox News channel or Tatum. I'm not reacting to his content per se, but he's on these shows, and I be wanting y'all to see how some of us do and some of the narratives that's being put out there, and then they get the token blacks to back up their narratives or whatever. So just pay attention to this interview. Keep it cute, girl. His channel, I've watched him on his channel. He is so fucking like delusional. Like he is one of those black men that I say, just give his ass a shot and turn him white. Just let him go on over there. Just let him go, because he gets on my nerves. He don't have nothing to say. That could be a whole nother show. Keep it cute. I don't even want to get into it, girl. But honey, that one right there, sad. Anywho, let's keep listening, y'all. This is a good interview right here because it's showing how they put two token blacks up here to spin their narrative and to pretty much back up their narrative. And you know, it amazes me how grown black people allow themselves to be used. They allow themselves to be used in this way, and it's sad. But anyway, let's listen.
Stories that benefit them rather than the families.
Well, let's keep it real. This is all about money. Benjamin Crump will never show up to a kid's funeral or say anything about a kid that's killed by another black kid. But if there's an opportunity to interject racism into a situation where there's no evidence of racism, Benjamin Crump will be there to do it. What is his end goal? He's not a criminal. He's not a criminal attorney. So he's not going to help the family get justice on a criminal level. He's a civil rights attorney. You don't need a civil rights attorney in a case where you're wondering if the investigation is going right for your son, unless you believe this has something to do with racism.
Let him finish, and then I'll let you talk. Okay, let him finish his point, and then I'll let you
respond.
He's going on a diatribe. So he's not. He's speaking, and I'll let you respond as soon as he's done making his point.
Katie, I'll let the young lady go. Go ahead. I would love to hear what you got to say today.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Officer Tate. Thank you. Well, let's just once again, speaking about things that you don't know about. Katie, you set it up with talking about Ben Crump being notorious for race baiting. I could name a couple of things that Officer Tatum here is also notorious for. So let's be careful on how we don't
need these personal attacks.
I'm gonna finish my statement. I'm gonna finish my statement. And let me also correct you on something else, Mr. Tatum, when you said Ben Crump would never show up for a black kid that was murdered by a black kid. My cousin, Jordan Turner, who was 19 and was murdered by another black kid that also went away with his friends and never returned home. Guess who showed up? Attorney Benjamin Crump. I know you're looking confused. See, this is why it's important that you
was that related to black people? Was black people involved in his death?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, that's
and they were convicted.
And we didn't hear about it plastered all over the media. That's a big difference.
This is why you don't know. This is why
it's not a difference. It don't matter. He showed up. Y'all just said that he don't show up when it's black on black. She just gave you an example of it happening. Well, it was also it's a lot of cases that's not put in the media, mainstream media, out here like Nolan Wells. No, all you hear is Nolan Wells, and we down for justice for Nolan Wells. But you got Daniel Irvin out here. You barely hear about him. The same exact thing happened to him. The media picks and chooses who they want to highlight on social media. The stories that come out on social media, they're done in very strategic ways. There's a lot of black kids that's out here passing away that's not on in the media. It's sad, but it's true. It is what it is. Ben Crump knows what to touch. He knows what he is. What he is, but I gotta get this woman credit. Y'all said he don't show up for black people, or when it's black on black, and she just gave you an example that he does. So it is what it is. Let me see what y'all saying. He was married to a white woman. I can see that, Carolyn. He's a coon, a straight up coon. And that black woman, let me tell you something about that white woman he was married to. She probably loved his dirty drawers and things of that nature. Probably, loved his dirty drawers, but as soon as she got mad, as soon as he crossed her, he was a nigga just like us. I said what I said. Yeah, let me keep talking. Just keep strolling. Hold on. I've seen it happen in real life. Can't tell me no different. Let's see. Tatum is correct. Why isn't anyone question the last person with Wells? I don't know. They were supposed to. Shout out to my moderators. Y'all be on alert. Like opinions, they can stay long as they're respectful with their opinions, whether we agree or not, but disrespect has to go. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all. Let me bag that up. Hear that again.
Is also notorious for. So let's be careful on.
So Crump will be there to do it. What is
unfortunately killed every single day, and people like, and has been criticized by people who have used him in the past for their cases of being an ambulance chaser pushing a narrative that fits the racial lens that he wants it to. You've talked about this on your podcast and how you believe young black men are unfortunately killed every single day. And people like Ben Crump and Al Sharpton just highlight certain stories that benefit them rather than the families.
Well, let's keep it real. This is all about money. Benjamin Crump would never show up to a kid's funeral or say anything about a kid that's killed by another black kid. But if there's an opportunity to interject racism into a situation where there's no evidence of racism, Benjamin Crump will be there to do it. What is his end goal? He's not a criminal attorney. So he's not going to help the family get justice on a criminal level. He's a civil rights attorney. You don't need a civil rights attorney in a case where you're wondering if the investigation is going right for your son, unless you believe this has something to do with racism.
Let him finish, and then I'll let you talk. Okay, let him finish his point, and then I'll let you respond.
He's going on a diatribe. So
no, he's not. He's speaking, and I'll let you respond as soon as he's done making his point.
Katie, I'll let the young lady go. Go ahead. I would love to hear what you got to say to that.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Officer Tate. Thank you. Well, let's just once again, speaking about things that you don't know about. Katie, you set it up with talking about Ben Crump being notorious for race baiting. I could name a couple of things that Officer Tatum here is also notorious for. So let's be careful on how we.
We don't need these personal attacks.
I'm gonna finish my statement. I'm gonna finish my statement, and let me also correct you on something else, Mr. Tatum. When you said Ben Crump would never show up for a black kid that was murdered by a black kid. My cousin Jordan Turner, who was 19 and was murdered by another black kid that also went away with his friends and never returned home, guess who showed up? Attorney Benjamin Crump. I know you're looking confused. See, this is why it's important that you.
Was that related to black people? There was black people involved in his death?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, that's
and they were
That's
convicted.
And we didn't hear about it plastered all over the media. That's a big difference.
See, this is why you don't know. This is why you should speak of what you know and not what you heard. So again, when it comes down to Nolan Wells, I ask that we use this time to ask people to come forward and speak about what they know. The young man did not come home, Brandon. He didn't come home. So let's use this time instead of focusing.
Makes sense, right, Candy Corn? But, you know, they're not going to sit up there. And it makes sense. He's a civil rights lawyer. No, he's not criminal. He's a civil rights lawyer. So that's why he show up for that's why he doesn't show up for black on black crime. Because this is the thing. Most of the time when black people's civil rights are violated, it's used by white people, right? Now, in the case of her cousin, apparently he felt like, you know, a black person violated her cousin's civil rights. Whoever is violating the civil rights, 99.9% of the time is whites violating our civil rights. So he show up for that. And that statement that you just made, Kenny, is so true. Common sense, right? You would think these people up here on this panel, this whatever, would know that, right? But no, they're not going to talk about that because that's not the narrative they want to spin. Call us blackness, but I started to call you something, but God wouldn't even allow it to roll off my tongue. But like I said, disrespect got to go, y'all. The other crap, you know, the stupidity, we'll let it ride.
On what people are saying in the comments, let's continue to stay in.
Brandon, I mean, Ben Crump is the one making this conversation in the media. Ben Crump is the one making this conversation in the media. He's the one pushing this out there, so people do speculate ahead of the investigation, not letting it play out. But Brandon, I want to ask you this question. Teslin, 1 second. Brandon, there's been a lot of accusations.
She wouldn't even be up there because that white woman is so rude to her. That white woman is so rude to her. Like I would be very professional, but I would have to exit stage level. I'm sorry, you're not gonna disrespect me. You want to suck Tatum's dick, and you sitting up there and you disrespecting me. You don't want to hear what I gotta say, but you want to hear what you're being really rude and disrespectful. See, I couldn't do it. Like I could not do it. You know, shout out to the people that can, you know, tolerate this type of disrespect and still keep it pushing. Cause see, I ain't there yet. I'm not there yet. Like she is so rude to this lady for what? Cause she's telling the truth. Because she's telling the truth.
And pushing that Nolan Wells' white friends have not been questioned enough as if they were somehow responsible for his death based on race. That seems like a highly irresponsible narrative to be pushing, especially when we don't know all of the facts yet.
100%. It is a flat out lie. The police department isn't doing their investigation. They're doing it fair and properly. Benjamin Crump cannot come out right now and say that the investigation isn't going like it should. They're interjecting race into something that has nothing to do with race. These boys were friends. The coach came out, who happened to be a black man, that said he don't believe race is a factor. These boys grew up together. These boys go to school together. This is a tragic situation, and they should leave it at what it is, and that's a tragedy. Let the investigation unfold. Benjamin Crump they're already out saying this has something to do with race because the boy was with white guys. That is asinine.
Just like you described just like you describe it when you talk about black on black crime constantly. So what a black man, a young black boy went with his white friends and didn't come back. So why are you not asking the white children to speak up? Nobody saw nothing, Brandon.
They are speaking. They are speaking.
He didn't come home.
All right, we gotta run.
White got to do anything.
We hope that the family can get some answers because a young man is dead and we want his family to have closure. Teslim Figaro and Brandon Tatum, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
And with watching that, you should know how this interview with Warren is going to go. He's going to be pretty easy on him. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. There were 3 boats and we only have the GPS to 1.
And we got evidence that it wasn't just 4 boys with him. We got evidence that they asked Nolan to get back on the boat and he refused to because he grown. We got evidence that the boys reached out to the parents, that Benjamin Crump and them didn't refuse to reach out to these boys. And I've talked to them. I've seen the evidence with my own eyes. I've seen that there was more than just 4 people. There was 3 boats full of kids.
We need to know what happened to Nolan Wells. What I need to do is hear from you. What do you think about everything going on in the Nolan Wells case? Leave a comment and we'll talk about it down below.
A lot of updates in the Nolan Wells case. First, brand new video reportedly shows what could be the last known.
Okay, that was Chronicle Speaks, you all. Y'all make sure. In fact, let me do this because I be forgetting, y'all. I do be forgetting to share these out. So let me do it right now. Wow. Okay. Y'all make sure y'all go on my community wall and click on this video and go over and give it a like on Chronicle Speaks, and also subscribe to her channel if you like the content. She's very, very good at what she does. Okay, so the next one is Law and Crime. They also did a video that was that dropped 19 hours ago. Okay, it's also an updated video. Okay, all right, I'm gonna share them out too as well. And then after that, we got another Chronicle Speaks video. I'm going to share that one out too as well. That's probably everything we're going to cover today. And then tomorrow we'll come back very, very, very early to get started, to get caught up on everything mostly everything that took place over the last, 4 or 5 days. Okay, let's get into it.
Image of him before he disappeared. That footage obtained by TMZ was reported on Horn Island just hours before he vanished. We'll get into what this could mean for the investigation. And attorney Ben Crump, who is representing Nolan Wells' family, just made a major announcement that the initial preliminary findings of that independent autopsy will come out tomorrow. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so we're back with another Nolan Wells update, and this time we have more new video, and I'm very curious what role this is going to play in the investigation, because there is this video that has surfaced that could be the last known image captured of Nolan Wells before he disappeared, before his body was ultimately found. This footage was obtained by TMZ. It was reportedly recorded on Horn Island just hours before Nolan vanished. The person who captured this on film believed this was Nolan. They felt so strongly that they went to the sheriff's office and showed it to police. Now, if this is Nolan, you might be saying, well, why, right? Why did people believe that? Well, the video doesn't actually show his face, so why do people think it's him? What is this telling us about what happened then? So let me start here. Since we last talked about this case, a lot has happened. For example, it was this week when Nolan was laid to rest by his family and friends. Reverend Al Sharpton officiated the service. Tyler Perry apparently paid for the funeral. Sharpton made a huge announcement at the funeral regarding the investigation. We're going to get more on that in a bit. But we also know the FBI is involved. They're investigating these apparent threats that were made against people connected to this case. Now, the specifics of these alleged threats, the substance, who it was sent to, but we know that the FBI is looking into this. As for the phone, Nolan's phone, the family has it. And after saying they believe data may have been deleted off that phone, it was announced that they're going to inspect that phone alongside state investigators and their own experts from the family. And this is all autopsy results, right? The autopsy from the state examination and the autopsy from the independent autopsy that was ordered by Nolan Wells' family. So all of this is going on, and now I want to talk about what's happening with this video. Now, I said that the results haven't come out yet, but literally at the time of this recording, we just got word from Ben Crump. So this is the attorney representing Nolan Wells' family, that there is going to be a press conference tomorrow. And I'm going to read you exactly what it says. This is from a press release. Nationally renowned civil rights and personal injury attorney Ben Crump will join the family of Nolan Xavier Wells at a news conference Wednesday at the 117th NAACP National Convention. Crump will announce the preliminary findings of an independent autopsy conducted on behalf of the family. Wow. Okay. So the video, this announcement, let's talk about it. I want to bring on Chris McDonough. He is a homicide investigator, director of law enforcement relations, and an investigative consultant with the Cold Case Foundation. Chris, always good to see you. Thanks for taking the time. I mean, this literally broke 5 minutes before we came on air. The fact that they are going to have the, what they're claiming here, if this is true, the results of this independent examination, they had claimed that Nolan's body was being sent off to Washington, D.C. A, they have these results. B, that they're going to announce them, and that this is going to be before the results of the state medical examination come out. What are your thoughts?
Well, at first, Jessica, thank you so much for having me on your show. And then with the family, obviously, they want to make sure that the investigation is consistent with what the state investigation would discover, the state medical examiner's office. So that would probably be one of the very first things an independent pathologist would want to say, right? Does it line up with the state medical examiner's reports that are going to be, given to the public at some point? And if in fact they don't, then of course there's going to be other interpretations of that information, and they're going to want to make sure that the state is aware of that, and then they're going to take those additional findings and push it against the investigation. I mean, that would be the logical steps here, right? And then of course, from that point, there's going to be determination, well, what additional further testing should occur, what type of other evidence should be looked into, and if in fact there is anomalies within the second autopsy, then of course they're going to want to check those boxes. The state will, the state investigators, and make sure that they're lining up with the findings of both autopsies as a whole.
So, right, the state medical examination is, the results are not coming out because they're waiting toxicology results. To me, it would seem that this independent autopsy has not done toxicology results, right, because they wouldn't have been able to get it back this fast. Maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. But to make an announcement like this, does it seem to suggest to you that there could be evidence of foul play, that there was some markings or some trauma to Nolan Wells' body that would indicate this was not just a case of drowning, but something else? And I know it's complicated when you talk about drowning because, or potential drowning, because there may not be outward markings of holding him down to make anything we can glean from it.
Well, great points. The one thing, obviously, that can be determined almost immediately is the microscopic findings of, anything inside of the lungs as a whole. If there's water or fluid in the body or in the airway, you can also find that, in a secondary autopsy, because there would be microscopic evidence of that. So that, number one, tells us two things. A, the first thing it tells us, if there is fluid, is he was alive. Okay? Because obviously he's inhaling water at that point. So now the secondary question that can be answered, or at least needs to be answered, is what are the circumstances, to your point, that brought him into that water? What is there evidence of foul play? Is there evidence of alcohol, other substances in his system? And that's where the toxicology reports are going to play a pivotal role in this from the very first autopsy, because that's going to be the most concentration with inside of this young man's blood.
Okay, so we'll see what results from this. Obviously, we're going to do our best to cover it here on Sidebar. I even told my team just now, let's plan for this. Let's see what happens. Let me ask you about this footage that came out. So you have this footage obtained by TMZ, apparently recorded on Horn Island at 2:23 p.m. on July 4th. It was reportedly shown to the sheriff's office. You can seemingly see in the video the camera panning across these boats, people, all on the water, and there appears to be a man standing on the back deck of a boat, and he appears to be bending over, reaching for something. You can't see his face, but the person who shot this video believes it was Nolan. Why? The man is apparently wearing swim trunks that match the color of the swim trunks that Nolan was wearing in that July 4th photo that everybody has seen. It's a very famous photo, right? Infamous photo. Now, this is, again, the one with his friends on the boat. If this is Nolan, this video would seemingly be the last known image of him before he vanished and before his body washed up ashore just days later. When you see this video, what stands out to you when you watch it?
Well, the first thing that stands out to me is, number one, it's a proof of life. If in fact that is him, then we know that he's alive at that date and that time, based on the metadata that they can pull off of that particular video. The secondary thing that jumps out at me is you have all of these other boats around him at that point. So that means you can also get the GPS data in relationship to these other individuals around him from those other boats. So that now puts him in a particular location at a particular time. And it also tells us that if in fact he is in that is him, what's he getting on the back of that boat? So you have all kinds of information that you can glean from the fact that he may be leaning over, getting something out of the cooler, et cetera, or water, or who knows what that substance is. But now an investigator can go back and say, okay, who owned this boat? What's in that cooler? And then you can actually trace that back to maybe other activities taking place earlier in the day, and then correlate that to potentially any other toxicology results down the line. If in fact it was a substance that, maybe alcohol or something, and we don't know that. Okay, but those are the kind of things that you can get for it. But more importantly, you can get the metadata from the GPS of all the other boats around there. And then you can correlate that to where his body was found later on, and then kind of connect those dots. How did it go from point A? How did he go from point A to point Z? And try to put that puzzle together.
Again, the video was recorded at 2:23 p.m., right? Ben Crump has said that Nolan was last seen on the island at 3 p.m. I haven't seen any contradicting account of that. It's 3 p.m. seems to be the time that we're hearing. But again, something can change. And we believe that boat left at around 4:31 p.m. So there's about this 2-hour window between this video and when the boat apparently left without him. One other thing, though, this video appears to show Nolan on a boat. Is it the same boat that his friends were on? The infamous July 4th photo shows him with his friends on a boat. This footage appears to be possibly a different boat, maybe with other people. Thoughts?
Yeah,
I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking.
No, that's a great point, because that is obviously one of the things you would want to match up in relationship to this video. You look at the structure of the boat, you can tell the manufacturer of the boat, and all of those other situations. And then the other thing that this would show, let's say this new autopsy comes up with evidence of trauma, hypothetically, right? Are there defensive injuries, neck injuries, internal injuries? Because whenever somebody goes into the water, there are abrasions and movements or injuries that occur because of the movement of the potential, the tides in of itself. Okay, so you're also able to say, hey, wait a minute, in this particular video, we're not seeing any evidence of, quote, these kind of injuries. Okay? So that's also something to consider, pretty heavily if in fact this is a viable piece of evidence that's presented itself now.
I also think that if people see this video coming out and think, wait a minute, this person felt it was important enough to go to the sheriff's office, good on that person to do it. Like, they see this whole wide panning shot and thinking, oh my gosh, look, they found out. It makes me wonder if other people are now going to have footage and look back and be like, oh, maybe I have something too.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, absolutely.
And I know the sheriff's office has asked that for unedited photos and videos from that day, but just made me thought of it.
Yeah, and that's obviously going to be, again, that's going to put everything back into the column of proof of life. We know that this young man is just enjoying a July 4th celebration, and that there's nothing afoot here, right? Suspicious in nature. So it can go either way. If those dynamics changed, then what changed between that video and where his body was found? And this will lean the investigators into looking at that type of evidence pretty much harder.
And I also want to ask you something else about this, because there are other significant developments that have come out from this funeral service, other than the fact that it was just incredibly heartbreaking to hear, Nolan's family talking about it and what it's like to not have them in their life anymore. Just think about how he's an athlete. He had these NFL ambitions. He was a role model to his siblings, just an incredible young man, and how much of a tragedy this is. But this funeral service that was held on July 20th at the Centerpoint Church in Ocean Springs out in Mississippi, hundreds of people showed up. Al Sharpton made a big announcement that he and the actor Tyler Perry, they each put up apparently $50,000 for information leading to a possible conviction or, again, information about what happened to Nolan Wells. So you're looking at $100,000 total for anyone who comes forward. This is what he said at the funeral.
Since Mississippi's so special, I'm not only saying we don't want nothing. I want to say right here now, and I'm inspired by who accused us of that I want to put up from National Action Network and me. I want to offer a reward of $50,000 to anybody I want to put a reward up for $50,000 for anybody that could give the information that will lead to an arrest and a conviction in the case of what happened. He was not on that island by himself. Somebody saw something and knows something. So I didn't come to make money. I came to give money. Stand up and tell the truth. Whatever it is, good or bad. We're not going to prejudge it, but we cannot end it until we know all the facts. Let me say to Christine and Elmo, before we do the prayer of committal and escort the family out, I just got a text. And I know that Tyler Perry said he would pay for the funeral. He must be watching because he said, I'm going to match you and put up $50,000 more. So we putting up $100,000 for anybody that'll come forward. We just want the truth. That's all.
Chris, $100,000 reward is pretty significant. How does that affect the investigation? Does that complicate it for investigators at all?
Unfortunately, it could be a plus or a minus in a case like this, because the type of information that you would want to come forward is probably going to be a very narrow scope in relationship to if this is foul play in any way, shape, or form. The individuals that are going to talk are probably not going to be motivated by the reward fund. However, a secondary layer of in investigations like this of individuals who are contemplating, like you said earlier, they have video, and they just didn't want to turn it in yet because they weren't sure, or et cetera. A reward may motivate those types of people to come forward and say, hey, I didn't know if this was related. I'm sorry I held this for so long, but here it is. So that in a plus column, a reward fund could be very beneficial. But the majority of the cases that I've ever worked, reward funds, quite frankly, did not really have fruitful outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's always a plethora. There's always a potential for misinformation, false information,
Exactly.
high-profile cases. While I have you, can I ask you about the phone, Nolan's phone? I think that's an interesting piece of potential evidence here, that Nolan didn't have his phone with him. There's been back and forth about why that was. The idea we've heard, if he goes into the salt water, it's not abnormal for him to leave his phone like other people. But then again, if he's going off on his own to talk to potentially a young lady, why wouldn't he bring his phone with him? We know the phone reportedly was with his friends, that the family got a hold of it, finding the Life 360 app. There was an allegation that data had been deleted from the phone, and now there's going to be a mutual inspection of the phone, according to Ben Crump, both by the family's experts and the state investigators. Do you have any concern about that?
Yeah, the phone is a very interesting piece of evidence left behind by this young man. Because you can argue, to your point, that you're celebrating in the water, so of course you want to leave that device out of a water source of any type. But then again, you have a shifting in behavior here. You have a young man who goes off, potentially it's reported with a young lady, and then just vanishes. Okay, and why would he leave his phone on the boat if in fact he's supposed to leave on that boat at some point? And now later on, it's discovered that he doesn't show up, and he's reported missing, but his phone is sitting there on the boat. The investigators will be able to determine rather rapidly, not only the GPS coordinates and of course all the data footprint that they'll get out of that phone, but then when you tie that into this behavioral aspect of it, because this is the other side of this case as a whole. Whenever you get a mystery like this, specifically around water, this really turns into what's the pattern of life for this kid? How, this young man, how does he operate? Is he hanging out with all of his friends? But the answer is yes. Is he interested in girls? Thank goodness. Okay, that he's working, that part of his life. He's successful with his high school, football, et cetera. And this is the kind of kid that just you go, what? This is a very low risk victim. This is a young man, very low risk. So then you start looking at the risk factors that a suspect and or somebody who would do him harm would take. Does he get on this island with this young lady and there's somebody over there that just doesn't like him, maybe because race is playing a role here, okay? And they get into a fight and he falls into the water and he subsequently drowns. Maybe he's unconscious. And this is where the secondary autopsy will be very critical to see if there's any type of physical evidence in his body i.e. defensive wounds, et cetera, head injuries, what we call subdural hematoma, bleeds inside of the body in of itself. And that in of itself will tell us if in fact there could have been an altercation of some sort. And that's the type of evidence you would want to look towards finding that would take you away from accidental to potentially something more suspicious in nature.
And according to Ben Crump during the press conference, let's say a potential homicide charge.
Potentially something more suspicious in nature.
And according to Ben Crump during a press conference last week, the DA apparently told him that once this investigation is complete, this case could be presented to a grand jury for potential criminal charges being filed. In what capacity, we wouldn't know, right? It could be, let's say, a potential homicide charge, could be something with respect to the investigation, someone not providing accurate information to law enforcement, maybe it's tampering with evidence. What do you make of that potentiality of this case being presented to a grand jury?
Well, anything is always possible. And if in fact this, the investigation starts pointing towards, hey, the timeline, the witness statements, a lot of that information is not lining up. I had a case one time where a guy disappeared off of a boat, and we found some powder on the boat, and it was from a fire extinguisher. And we discovered later on in the investigation that the individual was telling us lies, and we were able to determine that in fact he had fired the fire extinguisher at the victim. And that there was a major altercation on this boat, and one person fell over and one person came back. And is this that type of situation? Is there a fight that took place? Or even if somebody's horsing around, as kids do, as young men do nowadays, and he got hurt and they left him. They left him in the water. Well, that would be obviously information you'd want to establish. And so there's a lot of information that's still needed. The investigation, in my opinion, would still be fluid. But yes, a grand jury could come back with accessory after the fact and or other charges, manslaughter or something to that effect. We just don't know yet.
Let's see what happens tomorrow with that independent autopsy results, the preliminary findings. Chris Madonna, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate you.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday.
Breaking news was announced yesterday.
All right, y'all. So that was Law and Crime Sidebar. Okay. They pretty much talked about the reward that has been put out for information concerning Nolan. They also talked about the press conference that actually took place today. So now we're going back to Chronicle Speaks. I think she put this one out. Let me go check. Hold on. I want to say today.
And of your favorite photos from your phone. Down step 3.
Oh no,
just
we don't do that.
Type in your address and email. That's it. I'm not kidding.
Hold on, y'all.
And they're free, remember?
Oh yeah, she put this one out 7 hours ago, y'all. 7 hours ago. Let's watch. And remember, we're gonna start. I'm just putting this out here for today. We're gonna discuss all these so-called updates on tomorrow in detail.
By civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who represents Nolan Wells' family. Crump announced that the preliminary findings from the family's independent autopsy would be released this morning. Now, we have all been anxiously awaiting these results, hoping they would provide more answers about what happened to Nolan on that fateful 4th of July when he tragically lost his life. But while we wait for those findings, even more breaking news has emerged. In my last video, we revealed that Warren sat down for an interview with Officer Tatum. Now, Warren, of course, is the stepson of Judge Ashley Cole. Considering that she was the first parent to publicly come forward in an attempt to clear his name, I suppose it would make sense that Warren would be the first of the young men who were there with Nolan that day to give an interview. I also told you yesterday in my video that I did not expect any hard questions. Officer Tatum has repeatedly shown that he is far more comfortable tearing down members of his own community than holding certain people accountable, and judging by what we have seen, it appears I was absolutely right. Now, I'm not saying that this should have been an accusatory style interview. Warren has not been charged with a crime and he deserves the opportunity to share his account. However, hard questions still should have been asked. Instead, we saw joking and an almost casual attitude towards underage drinking without even asking who provided the alcohol to these teenagers.
You know, I mean, that's just how it was. Everybody's drinking, you know, I mean, it's 4th of July. Everyone's just trying to enjoy themselves. And, you know, it's a big party, basically. Big party.
Yeah, so y'all pretty much having a good time. Just like anybody would imagine, 18-year-olds, probably 20-year-olds, college students, out on the island, women. You probably had alcohol. So y'all having a good time.
Yeah, of course.
This is exactly why this interview felt less like an attempt to uncover the truth and more like an effort to take some of the pressure off of these young men. If the goal was truly to seek justice for Nolan Wells and determine what happened to him, why weren't the obvious follow-up questions asked? Most importantly, why sit down with someone who has absolutely nothing to do with the official investigation and provide him with all the information before giving the same answers directly to Nolan's mother? Nolan's family should not have to learn details surrounding their son's final hours through a YouTube interview. If Warren and the others truly, genuinely wanted to clear up information and help uncover the truth, Nolan's mother and the investigators would have received the full account first. Not only that, if these young men were truly Nolan's friends, or if Nolan was like a brother to them.
Nolan was not just a best friend of me, but he was a brother.
So he was like, I don't know, man. I know it's like my brother. I said, well, he was like, I don't know where the keys at. Nolan was like my brother. I said, well, if Nolan was like your brother, I'm his father. I'm here to get his car. Because you go to your room and see if you can find his key.
Then they would have had absolutely nothing to hide, right? Well, why was the Cajun Navy reportedly denied permission to allow its search dogs to examine the 3 boats?
We offered our dogs to bring to the boat. There's only one thing that will clean blood off of a boat. I'm not going to mention it because it'll give people ideas. But I doubt if somebody would have done something, they would have used this chemical to remove the blood. So we've offered our services to bring the dogs around the boat of everyone that was potentially involved in this. So the federal land thing is a big deal. So the body being dumped, I would say that let us bring the dog to the boat. Let us bring it. They said the boat was clean that night or the day before. There's only one thing that's going to clean it. If there's blood in that boat, we'll find it. If you can't see guys and they didn't bring you home, that is not uncommon. So I think there's where the focus needs to be. A, on let's get this notion that there was a body dumped. Let's bring the dogs to that boat. And we want to offer our services to go check that out. And B, these guys in the boat that he came with, it's okay that they left him on the island or they didn't bring him in. But yeah, as far as the body being dumped, our services are offered and they've been offered to go bring the dogs around that boat.
So not only are they not being transparent with allowing these search dogs from the Cajun Navy to go on these boats that had absolutely nothing to do with Nolan's death, but also the story about the boat allegedly getting ready to sink and having to be towed back.
Sinking, can y'all please come?
It's also not making sense. No one has come forward to say that they saw the boat be towed 2.75 miles, and then the tow company is denying everything. Take a listen to this.
One on the boat reported a mechanical failure to a private towing company.
I want to get this boat unsank and towed back.
The towing dispatcher reached out to a local boat captain to help.
It sounds like a bunch of kids on board on Horn Island. He wants you guys to go out there and unpump the boat and then tow it in.
But the company says it did not end up towing the boat, saying to NBC News in a statement, before assistance was rendered, the vessel owner advised that sea tow was no longer needed because help had already been obtained. Sea tow's involvement concluded at that point.
Yet, according to the GPS coordinates, the boat could not make it off the island and had to be towed by sea tow, allegedly, off of the northwestern tip of the island, 2.75 miles before normal operation resumed.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
Judge Ashley Cole, Warren's stepmother, said they left around 4:30 p.m. after the boat was taken on water and they had an issue with the bilge pump. However, Warren's birth mother said that Wyatt's boat started to fill with water. His boat ended up breaking down and was towed in. These stories are not matching up. No one is wanting their boat searched as if they have something to hide. The tow company is denying claims of towing you guys 2.75 miles, as you said they did. And a body that has no bloat as it should have had it been in the water for 2 days mysteriously washes up exactly where these boys left.
You don't find that suspicious?
I know that they left and they had nothing to do with this. And instead of them saying and standing up for these boys and saying, look, we don't know what happened. We want justice for Nolan. These boys didn't have no involvement. Instead, they want to make it about race. And it is a shame. And acting like this is a whole racial thing and Mississippi is full of racists. There ain't nobody in this city that I've heard from, talked to, even when I was around going to the restaurants here. There's not racial tension in Mississippi.
This is who interviews the boys, right? Okay. So before we get into more of the interview, let's first hear from Judge Greg Mathis and his take on what happened to Nolan Wells.
On a boat ride to a pretty much resort island, not necessarily, it's just a fun island off the coast of Mississippi. And 4 of them left and went and had fun, and only 3 returned. They then found Nolan dead. His 3 friends that he had come with in the boat had gone and left in the boat and claimed that Nolan stayed behind by himself. And additionally, however, and this is where the first question comes in with me, they say he left his cell phone. They have his cell phone. They had it in their possession. Okay, so if your buddy says to you, I'm leaving, you all go back. I'm staying by myself. No friends, just me wandering around. And then you see that he had left his cell phone. So you say, in the boat. And instead of taking it back to a friend who's on the island by himself, and by the way, did you ask him how he was getting home? So instead of going back, you couldn't be that far off because the phone right in the boat. Say an hour or two. If you're a real friend, you'll drive back on that recreational hour or two on the boat having fun to give your man his phone. Because if he's out there by himself, no question about it, 90% white in the state of Mississippi that has a history of demonizing and black men and killing them in the civil rights era. Most of the civil rights killings occurred in Mississippi, including Medgar Evers, including our dear young brother from Mississippi who was killed, and several others. And so we know that Mississippi has a history of demonizing and marginalizing black men. And the question became, what is the investigation going to be? Well, the police immediately accepted the version of the 3 young men that returned. Now, here you are, you're supposed to be the police. And I just deduced it, and I deduced it not just now, but I deduced it immediately after seeing it in the media. And I'm not an investigator, I'm a lawyer and a judge, but an investigator, that is a police investigator / detective, has investigative techniques that would have immediately thrown into question what occurred. And common sense throws into question what occurred. And that's where we're at now.
Yet this former police officer from day one has seen nothing wrong.
I had a great relationship with Nolan. I've never gotten an argument with Nolan. We were super close, and I've never said or will ever have anything bad to say about Nolan Wells.
And then I want you to then walk me through 4th of July this year when the incident happened.
Okay. 4th of July, everybody was out there. Like I said, like Nolan was always trying to go on the boat, trying to go out there with us. And he was always welcome to come. Nolan was always out there with us. And, but started 4th of July, you know, my buddies and I had talked about this weeks upcoming, you know, everybody's very, very excited for the 4th of July from down here. Like it's a big thing. I actually stayed with Nolan that night at my buddy's house, and I woke up at my buddy's house, and we went to McDonald's, got food. Nolan was not with me.
Now, at that moment, he should have asked him, who is your buddy? If we're trying to prove these boys' innocence, tell it all. Now, if you recall, Nolan's parents said that Nolan stayed the night at Jack's.
She's one of the content creators that I react to, that I can actually sit and listen to with y'all, is what I mean, with y'all, and don't have to intervene, because she always says what's on my brain. Like y'all notice I don't do a whole lot of talking when I react to Chronicle Speaks, because Chronicle Speaks pretty much think the way I think, right? I do live, she do videos or whatever, but that's why you don't hear me like interrupting her videos a lot, because she's always on point, like always on point, right?
House. That's Eli Jacks.
Well, first I ran to my house, then I went to McDonald's and came back to my buddy's house, and I woke up at my buddy's house, and we went to McDonald's, got food. Nolan was not with me.
Now, at that moment,
he's intentionally saying my buddy. Like this ain't something. This just ain't him. Just is coming out. He's intentionally saying my buddy, because he's intentionally not wanting to mention names, but Nolan's. Let's listen.
I actually stayed with Nolan that night at my buddy's house, and I woke up at my buddy's house, and we went to McDonald's, got food. Nolan was not with me.
Now, at that moment, he should have asked him, who is your buddy? If we're trying to prove these boys' innocence, tell it all. Now, if you recall, Nolan's parents said that Nolan stayed the night at Jack's house. That's Eli Jacks.
Well, first I ran to my house, then I went to McDonald's and came back, and the boat was already hooked up to my truck. My buddy Wyatt and I went, and with my buddy, and we went, filled the top of the boat off, loaded it down with ice, and just got everything ready. Then Wyatt went and put his smaller boat in the water, which is the Palm Beach.
So now he mentions Wyatt bringing a smaller boat. So now we know about 2 boats. But my thing is this, why are we only getting the GPS coordinates of 1?
He's 18-foot Palm Beach, and Wyatt, I drove the boat from Fort Bayou Boat Launch to my buddy's grandparents' house, and that's where we all plan to meet up.
So I'm going to jump ahead just for a moment, just to get clarity on Fort Bayou, although it's probably not going to clear up much. So he mentions Fort Bayou's boat launch. So it sounds like he drove to the boat launch with his car, detached the boat, and then drove the boat on water to Eli's grandparents' home. Jack's grandfather died in 2006. Grandmother died in February of this year. So Jack's grandparents are no longer living. However, they left this immaculate $1 million home that sits right on the water. And this is exactly where the boys took off from. This is the starting point. So Warren again mentions parking his car at Fort Bayou. We kept asking, what did Fort Bayou have to do with anything? Still doesn't make any sense to me. This broken down boat that was taken on water, left Horn Island, didn't get towed like they said it did, went back to Eli Jack's grandparents' house, went to Fort Bayou. I don't know who they dropped off or what they dropped off because you were allegedly not on that boat.
Oh yeah, let's back that up. Ooh, shout out to Chronicle Speaks.
If we're trying to prove these boys' innocence, tell it all. Now, if you recall, Nolan's parents said that Nolan stayed the night at Jack's house. That's Eli Jack's.
Well, first I ran my house, then I went to McDonald's and came back, and the boat was already hooked up to my truck. My buddy Wyatt and I went, and with my buddy, and we went, built the top of the boat off, loaded it down with ice, and just got everything ready. Then Wyatt went and put his smaller boat in the water, which is the Palm Beach.
So now he mentions Wyatt bringing a smaller boat. So now we know about 2 boats. But my thing is this: why are we only getting the GPS coordinates of 1?
He's an 18-foot Palm Beach, and I drove the boat from Fort Bayou boat launch to my buddy's grandparents' house, and that's where we all plan to meet up.
So I'm going to jump ahead just for a moment, just to get clarity on Fort Bayou, although it's probably not going to clear up much. So he mentions Fort Bayou's boat launch. So it sounds like he drove to the boat launch with his car, detached the boat, and then drove the boat on water to Eli's grandparents' home. Jack's grandfather died in 2006. Grandmother died in February of this year. So Jack's grandparents are no longer living. However, they left this immaculate $1 million home that sits right on the water. And this is exactly where the boys took off from. This is the starting point. So Warren again mentions parking his car at Fort Bayou. We kept asking, what did Fort Bayou have to do with anything? Still doesn't make any sense to me. This broken down boat that was taken on water, left Horn Island, didn't get towed like they said it did, went back to Eli Jack's grandparents' house, went to Fort Bayou. I don't know who they dropped off or what they dropped off because you were allegedly not on that boat. 15 minutes later, went right back to Eli Jack's grandparents' house. An hour later, docked at Fort Bayou and was then driven back to Wyatt's house.
And you say we all, who you talking about? You, Nolan, and how many people are going to meet you guys there?
We had roughly 20 to 30 people coming on 3 separate boats with us. And so we were all following each other out there as one big group. You know, it wasn't just me and Nolan and a couple other my buddies. There was 20 or 30 people spread out where we all met at the dock before, and then we departed to go to Horn Island. It wasn't just a couple of us. I mean, there were so many people, we had to split up between 3 boats, and we all left and all got there at the same time.
We know about 2 boats so far, but the GPS only has documentation of 1. What happened?
What boat were you on, and what boat was Nolan on?
Nolan was on Wyatt's 22 Triton. On the way out, I went with my buddy Bart because we had a lot of friends from college coming down, and I called Bart that morning. I was like, "Hey man, can you take your boat out?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, my dad decided not to go, and I'll take the boat and I'll take you and your friends." Of course, I mean, he's a buddy of mine. And so Bart pulled up at the dock, and I mean, I rode out there with Bart and a lot of the girls that go to college with my friends and I, and Nolan rode out on the Triton, and then we had a Palm Beach, 18 Palm Beach. There was 4 guys on that. There was like 8 people on the Triton, and then there was 8 or 9 people on the Triton, and then there was the rest of the group, which was probably ranged from maybe 10 to 15 or 16 people on my buddy's tide line, which is 24 tide line. So I mean, we followed each other out, and I mean, it was calm. It was calm. On the way back, it was a little more rough, but it was not anything all my buddies' boats couldn't handle, or like it wasn't like we were getting really beat up or anything. I mean, it was pretty calm. We got there. I helped my buddies tie the boats up because the tide line was right here, the Palm Beach was in the middle, and then the Triton was on the outer side.
And so where's Nolan in this? You know, you guys out there, the friend groups out there, 3 boats full of people that came out there that seem to be the closest friend group.
Right.
Where's Nolan in this in comparison to where you and others are at?
Well, you know, I had a couple conversations with Nolan. I talked to Nolan, and, you know, Nolan was drinking. Everybody was drinking, most of everybody. And I mean, Nolan seemed completely fine every time I talked to him.
Meanwhile, one of the last people to see Nolan Wells alive is speaking out to Inside Edition today.
I'd say he's pretty hammered. He would slur his words. His movement was slow.
And I mean, Nolan seemed completely fine every time I talked to him. We had just regular conversations. But I talked to Nolan a couple times, but it wasn't like I was strictly sitting there talking to Nolan the whole day. I mean, there was hundreds of people I knew out there. So
Yeah.
Now, the video ends with Officer Tatum asking Warren what happened that caused the group to leave Horn Island so abruptly. Conveniently, we do not hear Warren's answer, so I guess the part will be saved for part 2. Now, I am still waiting to see this so-called earth-shattering evidence that supposedly proves the innocence of the people who were last seen with Nolan. So far, the interview has provided background information and an explanation of how they arrived to Horn Island, but it has not answered the most important questions about Nolan's final known moments, why the 3 boats left around the same time, or what happened after they returned without him. Until then, we are only moments away from the release of the preliminary findings from the family's independent autopsy. Those findings may finally provide more concrete answers about what happened to Nolan and help determine how his family and legal team will move forward as they continue to seek truth and justice in the midst of this unimaginable tragedy. What I need to do is hear from you. What do you think about everything going on with the Nolan Wells case? Leave a comment and we'll talk about it down below.
All right. That was a good video. And we're going to wait for part 2 of Tatum. Hold on, y'all. We've already seen this. Wait. Let's see. All right, so what I'm about to do now is go. I said that was the last one, but actually I got one more. We're gonna get into this Nancy Grace video too tomorrow. That we're gonna get into tomorrow, but Law and Crime. Hold on, let me see something.
Thank you so much.
No, that's not what I wanted. I want 3 days ago, Law and Crime put out a video, right, y'all? And they gave like 17 disturbing details. And this right here, the reason why I want to go back 3 days to this video, of course, y'all know I wasn't here 3 days ago. Neither one, the autopsy report that we heard today, Worm 405, they said they was waiting on them. They didn't release any toxicology reports. They said they was waiting to see. But you did catch right there in that video that Chronicle Speaks pointed out that the friend Wyatt said that he didn't appear to be too drunk. You know, he was okay. But then you got this other dude that was on what, CNN or whatever. I think they said CNN, that said he was hammered. All right. So I mean, like I say, it's a lot. It's a lot. Let me pull up this clip, y'all. Let me pull it up. Hold on. What the reason why I want to go back to this video 3 days ago is because it breaks down all the disturbing details, quote unquote, about this case, and it's done in like one video, which makes it very, very easy to understand. So I want to play this or react to this one, and then we're gonna call it a day until tomorrow, where we're gonna talk about a whole lot more. All right, so let me pull it up. And Law and Crime got, y'all know the Law and Crime, it has like several different shows that they do content on. We just listened to one video on Sidebar. And this video is on the show called Scandal. It's also part of the Law and Crime Network. All right. Shout out to my moderators. Thank y'all so much for the hard work. I appreciate it. Shout out to everyone supporting this live. Thank y'all so much for the likes. Please continue to double tap that screen to like the live. If you're not subscribed and you like the content, please subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you'll be notified each and every time I go live, okay? I appreciate you. Excuse me. I appreciate you all. All right, let's listen to this one, y'all. And then we're going to call it.
Going out towards Horn Island, I need you to keep your eyes out for 18-year-old Nolan Wells.
His body washes up days later and brings with it question after question.
Why did this kid leave them the cell phone if that's what actually happened?
But it's clear that there's been a significant period of time between the boat leaving, the last time Nolan was seen, and this boat getting back to its original owner.
What we've been told does not make sense.
Now, the family and the world are demanding answers.
And we're talking about the Deep South. We're talking about a very charged political time. We're talking about one black kid with several white kids. There is a scenario under which there could potentially be something to hide.
Here's everything we know so far, a complete timeline in the death of Nolan Wells. This is Scandal, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sierra West. The 4th of July is supposed to be a time to celebrate with family and friends. This year, being America's 250th, was an even bigger celebration. I mean, it's an excuse to go out and grill, have some summer drinks, maybe even hit the beach. And that's exactly what 18-year-old Nolan Wells and his friends did. Head off to a small little island off the coast of Mississippi. And by all accounts, it started out as a fun day. Nolan even reportedly had his eyes on a girl at one point. Some young, fun summer love. But you're watching Scandal. And that means that's not where our story ends. That's only where it begins. With it, a mystery that we still don't have answers for. Why exactly did Nolan Wells separate from his friends? Did he drown? Was there foul play? Why would he leave his cell phone and keys with his friends? And would this investigation be treated any differently had Nolan Wells been white? We're going through all of those questions and more, giving you a complete timeline up to the point of this recording.
Hey, Miss Ann, I miss you too, girl. I'll go back to replay. I pray all is well with everyone. Thank you, Miss Ann. Same to you. I missed all of y'all. Thank you so much, Miss Ann. Good to see you.
So let's begin with who Nolan was. He was born on August 19th, 2007, making him only 18 years old at the time of his death. He grew up in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. It's a coastal town east of Biloxi. He graduated high school there.
Tanya, did you hear me say, you said, I'm sorry, I thought the funeral was a big media press and it wasn't affectionate enough. No family spoke other than the parents, not the siblings, aunties, cousins. Now listen, did you hear me at the beginning of this live? I don't know, Tanya, because sometimes you be coming in a little late, but I said on tomorrow, we're going to discuss that funeral because you and I think alike. We got the same algorithm. We think alike. We say some of the same things and things of that nature. And we be getting the same feelings about stuff. That funeral, oh my God. Like, I played it, just because I wanted to play without interruption. I didn't want to do, no content. That was my previous live that I did. But baby, let me tell you, that was not a homegoing for Nolan. That was an extended press conference. Miss you too, Tanya. That was an extended press conference. That wasn't a funeral. I have never known of one of us to have a funeral where, I think maybe 2 songs. One was sang, one was played. Did nobody speak, like you said, other than the parents and Ben Crump and what's his name, Al Sharpton. None of the friends spoke. It was so many of his friends there. We're gonna talk about it tomorrow, y'all. We're gonna talk about it because I don't know what is up with these parents. Like, I thought Carmelo's parents was something else, but I had to, analyze them and pay attention to them to see that they just of a different like breed or whatever. But this right here, I don't know, y'all. But we're gonna talk about it tomorrow. Shout out to you, Tanya. We're gonna talk about it tomorrow. Yeah.
Just last year in 2025 and started college at Southwest Mississippi Community College in the fall, where he played receiver on the football team. His coach, Les George, told People magazine, quote, Nolan was a genuine person. You come across people in life that are just salt of the earth, the kind who want to see the good in everyone and make other people feel good and accepted. That's who Nolan was. On July 4th, Nolan decided to celebrate the holiday with some friends, visiting Horn Island off the coast of Mississippi in the Gulf of Mexico. Here's the National Vice President of the United Cajun Navy, Brian Trasher.
So Horn Island, like I said, it's probably about 10, 12 miles off the coast of, it stretches probably from about the south of the city of Biloxi to the city of Pascagoula, which borders Harrison and Jackson counties on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. It's a very popular recreational destination. It is uninhabited. There's some very pretty beaches. When it's not too windy, the water's pretty clear. The temperature was in the high 70s. It's 4th of July. Obviously, it's a crowded day. Everybody out. But yeah, the only way to get there is to buy boat, or maybe presumably like an aircraft or something. But for the most part, people go out there by boat and just leisurely hang out in the water and have fun. Same thing with Ship Island. Ship Island is just to the west. And that island has a historic Fort Massachusetts. It's been there since 1861. Another popular place for people to hang out. All the barrier islands along Mississippi on the weekends, you see just a lot of boats. Sort of like the Outer Banks of the Carolinas. It's just a popular recreational destination.
According to The Guardian, Nolan went out on a boat with 3 of his friends headed for Horn Island. They reportedly arrived right around 11:15 a.m. on July 4th. So they hung out on the island for a couple of hours, did 4th of July and beachy things until it was time to leave. And here's where the story gets complicated. According to GPS data, the boat left Horn Island at 4:31 p.m. But what led up to this incident is confusing.
So the story which was told to me was that at approximately 3 p.m., his friend group that he had gone to the island with decided they were going to leave. They had to get back, and Nolan had started talking to.
I spoke at PJ funeral on Keep It Cute. I be amazing myself. Like each funeral that I've gone to of a loved one, they go for my twin brother Jerry, my granny, my sister's twin, my PJ, and my Tony. Amazingly, I went to all of those funerals, was not planning on speaking, but because I always felt like if I was to speak, it would be something I felt, not something that it was put on a program or something like that. So at each one of those funerals, I spoke. I sure did. Each one of them. It can happen.
I was told it was a young female, but he was talking to some other people, had decided that, hey, I'm going to hang back. I can get a ride back with somebody else. He hangs out with this group all the time. They've been to this island together a bunch of times. It probably at the time didn't seem like a big deal to his friends to say, okay, you want to, go holler at that girl, and if she'll give you a ride back, then that's cool. We'll see you when we get home.
I mean, I didn't speak as well. I mean, let me put it like this. I spoke at PJ's funeral, right? Did I break down? Absolutely. Was I able to finish it? No. I couldn't imagine that, like that mom being able to speak, like, because she was speaking like she was speaking at a presentation. You know how when you work at a company and you do presentations and things of that sort. Are you doing some type of press release? Are you doing some type of, that's the energy she gives me. Like she's so, I don't know the words. You have to pray for it, keep it cute. And let me tell you something. The reason why I never, like, nobody knew at each one of those funerals if I was going to speak or not, because I felt like I sat there and I had to feel it, right? I had to pray, and, but I mean, each one of them I did, break down, but it's just, it's like, first of all, I'm going to say the funeral was not a funeral. It was not a homegoing celebration for Nolan. It was an elaborate press conference of some of the same things we had already been hearing. You know what I'm saying? They just repeated the same things, that we had. It wasn't nothing personal to me, honestly, about Nolan, other than the parents speaking. It's just weird. Right, Tanya?
That's the way it was explained to me.
Some reports say just that the 3 friends decided to head back on the boat and that Nolan decided he wanted to stay back and talk to a girl who was named Katie. In that version of events, Nolan planned to hitch a ride back to the mainland with some other friends. And some of this can be attributed to a statement from Judge Ashley Cole, the mother of one of the guys who left on that boat. She released a statement, and it reads in part, quote, "My son saw Nolan last around 3 p.m. on July 4th. They left around 4:30 p.m. when the boat was taking on water and they had an issue with the bilge pump. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island and return inland later with another group of friends." And there is an emergency recording coming from the boat showing that it was in fact taking on water.
We're sinking. Can you all please come?
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah. Yeah, everybody talks about it.
According to CBS News, the boat had to be towed back to the shore where it arrived at 6:06 p.m. on July 4th. It was then taken to its original port, but later moved to the Fort Bayou boat launch where it arrived at 7:19 p.m. And that means there were several hours between when Nolan was last seen and when the boat ended up docked on the mainland. And this little fact stands out to a lot of people, including criminal defense attorney Tyler Bailey.
That if he was last seen on the island at 3 p.m. and they apparently, not only did they leave there, go to another area, then go to dock and get towed, there's a lot that could have transpired between that time, especially putting that in conjunction with the text messages and Snapchat history that was allegedly deleted from his phone or missing from his phone. So there's a lot of time for people to get their stories straight, to talk to maybe counsel or others about what needs to be the narrative when they arrive. Now, I'm speculating to a lot of this because we don't know. There has been no interrogation of these individuals. There's been no official statements that have been issued, but it's clear that there's been a significant period of time between the boat leaving, the last time Nolan was.
Ms. Lynn, let's talk about your statement, because I think that's a very powerful statement, and it's true. Like, honestly, it's true. The statement is true. You said, I think that she is acting the way that she is acting because she would do anything to get justice for her son. That's my opinion. And I agree with you, Ms. Lynn. And listen, let me tell you something. Just like she said, in each one of the press conferences that I've heard her spoken at, she says the same thing. If you were me, wouldn't you want to get justice for your son? It's like she's programmed. But that's neither here nor there. But this is the thing about that. I agree with you, and I agree that she should do everything in her power to get justice for her son. But what, Ms. Lynn, can you answer me this? They did an interview initially, right? They've done several interviews. They've gone on news stations. They've done press conferences. They've done several, right? How many? Because see, let's talk about it. Unless there's a significant update, because unless there's a significant change from one press conference to the other, unless there's some big breakthrough between each press conference or each interview, how many press conferences, right? How many interviews do you have to do saying the same exact things over and over and over again? Do you have to do to feel like you've done enough to get justice? Because the thing about it is, press conferences don't bring justice, right? They bring awareness, right? Press conferences bring awareness. Hey, Toker. Good to see you. You know what I'm saying? They bring awareness to me, honestly. But see, we know being Crump and Al Sharpton, they use press conferences for what they use them for, right? They use them for sympathy. They use them for this and that and the third. And so we all know, to me, honestly, in my opinion, the real work is done behind the scenes, right? As far as getting justice, whether you're the parent, whether you're the lawyer, whether you're anybody, the real justice, you do behind the scenes, you do the legwork behind the scenes. And so, like I say, unless, yeah, we probably gonna talk about that too, Toker, one day this week. Let me see, today Wednesday. We'll go deep into that too. I did stream it. I didn't do much. I didn't talk on it, but we'll do some discussion on that too. I'm waiting to see an update on what I've been waiting on is an update on the ruling, but we'll talk about that too as well. We're gonna talk about that too, because that was a mess. That was a whole mess. I was waiting to see if a jury would do it. One of the jurors would do an interview or somebody, but I don't think nobody's talking about it. But I'm gonna search again. Yeah, but yeah, Ms. Lynn. So I get what you're saying, and I feel you on that one, because if it was me, I would be doing the same things. It's just, to me, honestly, there's a time and a place for everything, and they've done so many press conferences and interviews. To me, honestly, the funeral could have been just that, a funeral, right? The funeral could have been a homegoing for him, more personal, more personalized, more of a homegoing celebration, because that wasn't it. That, even if you say, okay, She can come out and do all the press conferences. She can come out and give all the interviews. Could you not just leave the funeral for what it is and let that be? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying the lady should be doing. And then too, still, Ms. Lynn, my opinion is this. Even with her coming out and speaking the way she's speaking to get justice, I get it. But to me, there's just no emotions with this lady. Like, honestly, it's like she's like I said it a minute ago. And the only time I actually seen her cry, like cry for real, like I couldn't stop doing when I lost my son, was an AI image. Like, I've never seen her like break down. Not saying that, the lady might just don't want, she might not want to break down on TV and stuff like that. I get it. But I couldn't control it with me. I couldn't control it. And just speaking my son's name or speaking about my son out loud, I was an emotional wreck. I don't see how she's holding it together the way I think the dad cried a little when he spoke. Maybe I missed it. I don't know. But I just ain't seen this woman show real true emotions to me, honestly. It's like, like she's programmed. Who got to rewatch the replay? Who got to rewatch it? Cuba Q. I think she's so busy trying to follow the lead of her lawyers and advisors. She got to just be a mom that lost her son. And to grieve the loss of her son, it's okay to do that also. I mean, yeah, I guess. You do have to please once these people get in the ring, once they come around and once you accept their help, you do have to pretty much follow their lead. You do. You do pretty much have to, whether you want to get up and go to a press conference or not, they want you there. Whether you speak or not, they want you there. You know what I'm saying? They want you there because that you're the face of the whole thing. Like, and it's too much. It's just too much to me, Ms. Lynn. But I get exactly what you're saying. Basically, you're saying, that's why I was asking Cuba Q who you was telling to watch the replay. I didn't catch your other comment. Okay, boo. So, and I said it. Like, remember when I told y'all, I said she's in the healthcare field, right? She's a I don't know, she's a RN, I don't know what, she's something. She's she's in that field, right? So remember when I mentioned to y'all, yeah, Ms. Lynn, me and you, we agree, but then, remember when I mentioned to y'all that a lot of times healthcare workers, they get desensitized. It ain't just the doctors I'm speaking about, right? It's the doctors, it's the nurses, it's the PCAs, it's a lot of healthcare workers that deal with, trauma and tragedy and death on a daily basis, and they just become desensitized, right? They do. They become like me. Okay, say for instance me. When I was working in the emergency room, right? When I first started working in the emergency room, each time, because I was that person from the business office that had to go into the patient's room and get their demographic information, meaning their name, date of birth, and mainly their insurance, because I worked for the business office, right? So when I first started working, because I started off working in the business office, the part up where like pre-scheduled things happen. So that was the ER in that part are totally different. You know what I'm saying? The first part I worked in was people coming in for surgeries. They were coming in for pre-ops, things of that nature. So that those people walk in, they not, brought in on stretchers and this and that and the third. So when I moved down to the hustle and bustle of the ER, it was totally different, right? So when I first started down in the ER, I was scared to go into patients' rooms. Like when I would have to go into this room, that room, I was always hesitant. I just didn't know what I was gonna see. I didn't know what are they gonna be doing. I didn't know, so I was very hesitant. I was very I ain't gonna say scared, but I just didn't know what I was gonna be walking into. Man, once I did that job for 10 years, I mean, I used to walk in the rooms. I done seen poles in people's heads. I done seen folks' limbs. By the time 10 years had rolled around, I had seen so much that whatever I walked in on, I wasn't as grossed out as I was in the beginning. It was like, okay, I've seen it all. You know what I'm saying? I've seen it all. And you get like that. You get kind of desensitized to the trauma and things of that nature. And you even get desensitized a lot when it comes to death. Because I remember when I first started working in the ER and we would have a patient to cold or to pass away. Hell, I was in crying like the family was crying. You know? And then, like I said, after 10 years, it was like, I mean, not saying that I didn't feel bad for the people. I just wasn't as emotional as I was when I first started. Like, it was draining. But that's all I'm saying. She just seems a little desensitized to me. Your pain and attend to others' pain. I do that, and it's hard to reach for and find my pain later on to actually feel. I see what you're saying, Chantrell. Yeah, life can be desensitized. Sometimes, sometimes you desensitize yourself in order to deal, in order to be able to deal with what in order to deal with the circumstances. And I think that's what a lot of the healthcare workers do. They desensitize themselves so they won't be so emotional in what they're doing and stuff. It's just weird, and it's a lot. But anywho, that's what I feel the mama is. That's what I feel. I feel she's desensitized. But let's listen, y'all.
Scene and
But
this.
anywho, we're gonna talk some more about their funeral tomorrow too, as well, y'all.
Boat getting back to its original owner.
And we'll talk more about this as the episode goes on. The possibility that not everyone is telling you
to protect yourself, keep it cute, exactly. To protect yourself, to protect your emotions, and to be able to do your job. Truth be told, to be able to, do your job. Uh-oh.
or that the investigation wasn't handled the way it should have been. And that leads into the first point of conflicting information. So the first report says Nolan stayed behind to talk to this girl named Katie. But according to Nolan's family, the girl on the island, again, sometimes identified as Katie, said Nolan told her he was leaving the island to get back on his friend's boat. Here's retired detective Matt Irvine.
Well, there's a couple of things seem to be going on here. One, there has been a lot of speculation, a lot of misinformation in this case. Sounds like from what we're hearing, that image from the pool party, even though it didn't come out till the weekend of July 4th, was actually taken a week or so earlier. There's some question with that recording about who is arguing with who about wanting their phone back. The friend said it's him and not Nolan Wells. So there is just a lot of speculation and misinformation out there. And then, as to the statements from the people on the island, you'd really need to dig down to see exactly what they said. It sounds like the friends told law enforcement that Nolan Wells wanted to stay behind to talk with some young woman. Sounds like the young woman said he left her to go back to get on the boat with his friends. That's not necessarily a conflicting statement, right? Both things could be true. If she didn't actually see him get on the boat, that doesn't necessarily mean that he made it back there, and something might have happened along the way. So you'd really have to look at the exact words that folks used in describing what they thought happened. And it's not unusual in a case like this for different people to have different perspectives and for those to appear to be in conflict.
Nolan's family says it was unlike him to just separate from his friends. His mom told Good Morning America, quote, "That we cannot answer. I can't fathom why he would." His dad said, quote, "We always told him, if you go out with a group, you stay with a group." But regardless of what circumstances led to Nolan and his friends being separated, they were. And here's where the next weird part comes in. Nolan's phone and keys somehow reportedly ended up with his friends. According to the Associated Press, Nolan's parents actually tracked his phone on the evening of July 4th. They used the Life 360 app, and they found the phone with one of Nolan's friends, but Nolan was still missing. And that's something that civil rights attorney Joe Richardson just can't make sense of.
So, but did he leave the other group of friends his cell phone? If that's true, what they reported is that somehow they showed up, the group of friends that left him showed up with his cell phone. Now, they say it's a pretty remote place and there's not a lot of service out there. I don't know how well your cell service works or whatever, but it seems like to me, I'd keep my cell phone. I have a 19-year-old kid, whether I thought it was going to work or not. It wouldn't occur to me to leave. So that's the biggest question right now. It's circumstantial evidence. If that, it's not DNA, it's nothing like that. Why did this kid leave them the cell phone if that's what actually happened? I wasn't there. So it leads to some very interesting questions.
And once again, things get even weirder. When Nolan's mom got a hold of the phone, she reportedly noticed a bunch of things had been deleted from it. We're talking photos, videos, even recent Snapchat posts. So did all of this information just get deleted? And is there a way to potentially retrieve it?
So there are experts and there are programs that are designed to extract data from cell phones. There's a couple of programs that are used to recover data, including data that people think is deleted. So there's a lot that you can get from a cell phone. Some of it is dependent upon the phone itself, how data is stored, the choices you make, for example, with an application like Snapchat, whether things are retained or deleted. But there are people who do nothing but cell phone forensics and forensic examination of electronic devices, and they're very good at it, and they're very good at recovering things that people think that they got rid of. In addition to whatever's on the device itself, there may be additional information on the servers of social media companies and providers of telecommunication services. So there's a lot of information to be gleaned there, both from Mr. Wells's phone and from the devices of other people that were there on the island at the time.
As the sun set on July 4th and the hours ticked by, Nolan's family still hadn't heard from him. At about midnight on July 5th, Nolan's mother officially reported him missing, and the search began immediately. People online sounded the alarm, urging beachgoers and residents across the area to keep an eye out for Nolan.
5 July 2026, really important. I know you guys are going to be out on the boat today. Enjoy your day. If you're going out towards Horn Island, I need you to keep your eyes out for 18-year-old Nolan Wells. Black young man, about 6'1", 180 pounds, was last seen on that north end of Horn Island. Guys, he hasn't been found. Okay, he was last talking to a girl on that north end. He went out to Horn Island with some buddies yesterday out on a boat. He's not been heard from in close to 24 hours. So guys, if you're out there fishing, if you're out there, jet skiing, doing whatever you guys are doing, keep your eyes out for Nolan. Family's going to be out there in the boat searching. We're going to try and get some air assets up there. We know there's surface assets around. Coast Guard's been notified. Local police have been notified. Guys, please keep your eyes out. Look at the poster. Look at the pictures. Let's see what we can do. Let's find this young boy. His mother's worried sick. Let's do what we do, guys.
Right away, the team from the United Cajun Navy was on the case.
On Sunday, the 5th of July, we had a rescue specialist and a drone operator go out on a boat, and they spent several hours out there on the island and around the island, and they were not successful in finding any clues. So that's what we decided to do. Aerial reconnaissance.
Ryan himself was in the air when he noticed something strange the following day on July 6th.
I went up in a single engine fixed wing aircraft and flew basically a grid around Horn Island, Ship Island, which are barrier islands just south of Biloxi and Pascagoula, Mississippi, down to Chandelier Islands, which is actually part of Louisiana, but just due south of those barrier islands, and looking for any kind of activity. And then, as we flew over the northwest tip of Horn Island, going back north, we noticed there was a couple of boats beached up on the beach that were not there before. And I could look down and I could see that something was going on. And then we made a circle around. By that time, a lot more law enforcement boats were showing up, and before you know it, they had probably a dozen boats huddled up on the beach there. So we knew that they were setting up a command center.
And that's when the devastating news broke: a body had been recovered.
I can tell you that I've started flying over the island, that part of the island where the body washed up, approximately 6:30 a.m. And I believe he was spotted by a park ranger at 8:45. My belief is that he just washed up within that time period, because we were flying kind of a long grid north and south, and I think he just washed up, and park ranger just doing his normal runs in the morning. But also, too, given the situation, I'm sure they were a little more hyper aware and probably a little more head on a swivel on the island, knowing what happened and what was going on. But yeah, I was told that it was about 8:45 when a ranger spotted, called it in, because I did see a long line of emergency boats coming heading southwest toward the northwest tip of the island. And I thought it was just another search party going out, but I think they were actually responding to that call.
At first, it was just a body. It hadn't officially been identified as Nolan.
I saw the body from about 300 feet in the air, but so I wouldn't be able to tell you like exact condition. I can tell you that it did not appear to be waterlogged. It was only in the water for a couple of days, but nevertheless, the sheriff's office put out a statement saying that they had no reason to believe it was not Nolan. So I think they were pretty confident it was. I think the reason for the delay in the official announcement is that I don't think the coroner can sign the death certificate until he gets DNA evidence proving it is who they're, the person they're saying is deceased, is actually them. So I think it's just a formality.
But it was quickly confirmed the body belonged to Nolan Wells. His mother took to Facebook writing, "I want to thank our family, friends, community, United Cajun Navy, local law enforcement, and everyone involved for all the love, support, resources over the last few days. His father, our family, friends, and I are absolutely devastated. My heart, heartbroken for my sweet son, who was always willing to cheer and uplift others. Nolan was a special soul. God took his time creating our son. I ask that you please give me and my family time to grieve." His college also released a statement, reading in part, quote, "The entire Southwest family is heartbroken as we mourn the tragic loss of Nolan Wells. Nolan was an exemplary student, athlete, friend, and teammate. We remember Nolan as a well-respected young man who was very popular among friends, faculty, and staff. We loved Nolan, and he will be greatly missed in many ways. Our continued prayer will be with the Wells family now and in the days to come." And at this point, in any logical case, a death investigation would begin. But according to the Jackson County coroner, there were no obvious signs of trauma on Nolan's body. The coroner told CNN, quote, "No foul play was suspected."
Unfortunately, I think an early statement from the sheriff's office, something along the lines of, "We don't see any foul play here. We don't suspect foul play." That's a premature statement. And I think that, unfortunately, suggested to some people that they were rushing to judgment.
The big issue here is that the early announcement of no foul play, the evidence of the cell phone that the family received, I believe a couple of days after Nolan went missing, or the night of, I can't recall the exact time, and then the missing of text messages and Snapchat data. And by allowing joint experts or joint data extraction at the same time, is going to help the family feel comfortable knowing that all data is being looked at, is not being piecemeal. Because oftentimes I've seen cases where there's been a cell phone data that's been extracted and the state says, "Oh, well, that's other information deleted. We can't get it." But that's not normal. When a forensic expert can see what's been deleted, what's been altered in the data.
On July 7th, an official autopsy was conducted. At the time of this interview, we're still waiting for those results. And in the meantime, a lot of people have a lot of questions.
I think the toxicology report is going to be telling as well, because if you're in the water and you have some alcohol in your system, it may be more difficult to swim and things of that nature. So the toxicology report is going to be very important, and more information regarding the autopsy about his actual how he actually unfortunately lost his life is going to be relevant for both sides. Whether the state sees this as evidence of there being foul play, or the family sees it as more so evidence of the state not doing a thorough investigation and being willing to pursue charges.
And all this brings up even more questions about how Nolan's death investigation has been handled. So much so that the family retained renowned civil rights attorney Ben Crump.
Ben Crump, he's nationally known. I've seen him in San Bernardino down the street from me. But where people got to know him on a national standpoint is in Florida, where he's from. But he's got connections to the South, of course, deep connections to the South, went to school in the South, has handled cases in Mississippi, et cetera. So it would make sense that Ben Crump or somebody like him would be able to press buttons right away and start to ask the right questions and to pull on the right resources, make the right calls in terms of understanding what's out of sorts about an investigation. So it's not only trying to get at what we believe may be the truth or whatever we can know about it, but it's anything being done differently than how it would normally be done. So he brings to the table all of those types of things.
We have the honor and the privilege of helping to lead an independent investigation on behalf of the family of Nolan Wells.
Even renowned Reverend Al Sharpton spoke at the press conference.
It is clear that this situation must have the most thorough and objective investigation to lead to justice.
Together with Nolan's family, they announced an independent investigation with funding from some major players such as Tyler Perry, Spike Lee, and Colin Kaepernick to cover funeral costs and a second autopsy.
It's not unusual to have more than one autopsy in a case, and it's not unusual for medical professionals to disagree, and more than it'd be unusual for scientists or other eminent professionals to disagree about how to interpret facts in a case.
I think they're looking both ways before they cross the street. One of the biggest pieces of evidence is the body. Not to sound morbid or whatever, but there's a chance that if a drowning is being alleged and there's trauma that's inconsistent with the drowning, then we know that raises more questions and that creates more problems. There's also an argument that perhaps the state of Mississippi, depending on what may have happened, depending on what they suspect may have happened, that they can't necessarily prove one way or the other, they may be incentivized to close the book. I've dealt with cases where you're trying to uncover information and you're dealing with a coroner or you're dealing with investigators, fire investigators, et cetera, fill in the blank. When something fits a narrative and they put it away, they do that. We would love to say, oh, we'll leave no stone unturned, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's not always the case. So what's the best way to be sure that you've uncovered all of the information you possibly can? I think it's because you do, and that's why you need to do an independent autopsy, so that there is a scenario under which, and we're talking about the Deep South, we're talking about a very charged political time, we're talking about one black kid with several white kids. There is a scenario under which there could potentially be something to hide, and someone may choose sides in that regard. But the body itself, theoretically, could at least allay some concerns about how one may have died, et cetera. And it might be said that you certainly get information quicker.
Not only has Crump's team started work on a second independent autopsy, they've also gotten some major movement from the Jackson County District Attorney's Office.
We've just had an opportunity to meet with District Attorney Angel McElgrath and some members of her team. We had a very respectful meeting. She shared with the family that there will be a grand jury that she will turn this case over to once they have collected all the information and finished their investigation.
Crump also announced that whenever Nolan's phone is reviewed, his experts will also be present alongside the family. That way, everyone will get all the same information at the time.
This DA said that she commonly meets with families who have lost loved ones. That's one thing that she did say. But out of this, where you have a sheriff that said there's no foul play initially, and then you have the family demand an independent investigation, and then you have a meeting between the family and along with the family's lawyer, that is very significant. I think that shows that the public pressure and the national attention to this area of Mississippi has made the DA change some of the way she's addressing this by meeting with the victim's family and even coming to the extent of doing some joint things together with the victim's family and their attorney. That's not common in situations like this.
So a lot to unpack here. Let's begin with the grand jury of it all. Now, this is a secret proceeding, so there won't be cameras. We won't know exactly when it's happening, but we can make an educated guess about it all.
Grand jury proceedings are secretive. So there will be, for example, no media coverage of the grand jury. There's no defense lawyers are not allowed to be there. The victim's family attorney, Ben Crump, won't be able to be there. It'll be a prosecutor who's presenting the case to the grand jury that's been impaneled. If they decline to press charges, there will ultimately be questions. People may wonder whether this grand jury was spoon-fed information that would lead them to come to a conclusion of there being no probable cause for an arrest. But I do believe if they do find that there's criminal charges out of the materials that are presented to them, it would affirm some of those suspicions that so many people have about how this has been handled and all the gaps that appear to be present in this investigation in the aftermath of Nolan's death.
Now, prosecutors have their own discretion. They don't have to file charges based on what comes out of these grand jury proceedings, but it is possible that criminal charges could be filed.
Right. Anything that's a criminal charge pertaining to the disappearance in the, all right, you can have some accessories after the fact. We don't know if it's going to be homicide or murder, but there could be some criminal charge that could come out of this. And I think that's all the family has been asking for is a fair investigation so they can know the truth.
And that's why we're all here, the truth, because there's still a lot of unanswered questions. And that leads to my next point, the video. Now, this clip emerged after Nolan's disappearance, showing what appears to be a fight on Horn Island before Nolan went missing. And this caused a lot of waves. Was there some sort of altercation ahead of his disappearance? Well, yes and no. If you believe Nolan's friend, Trayston Shepard, who spoke to Good Morning America, saying, quote, Nolan wasn't on the island at the time. Instead, this was allegedly a fight with a complete stranger and had nothing to do with Nolan. Now, that video is in the hands of investigators.
I imagine they're looking at it very carefully. I imagine they're doing everything they can, both visually and in terms of audio, to enhance it and determine who's talking. And I imagine that that is just a very small slice of the electronic evidence that they're looking at in this case. I mean, if you have a bunch of young people taking a trip to an island, I imagine everybody's got phones, everybody's recording and uploading things to social media. And even if Mr. Wells's social media account was apparently quiet during at least some of this time, some of that interaction has got to have been captured by other people. That's just sort of how young people socialize. Everything gets put online.
Trayston also cleared the air about why Nolan's friends ended up with his phone. They told GMA, quote, all our friends are out there. Who are we communicating with? And we're in salt water. We're not in fresh water. When Nolan got in the water, he put his phone on the boat along with probably 15 other phones.
Normally, young people have their phones with them and on all the time, but I think getting in water would be an exception. You're not going to get in the water with your phone in your pocket. So the idea that he would leave it behind with somebody or on a boat if he's going to be getting wet makes a lot of sense.
And we mentioned Trayston spoke out, and also so did Ashley Cole, the Jackson County judge. And I read part of her statement before, but I wanted to touch on it again. She's released multiple statements. The first saying in part, quote, our family, along with the community, grieves the loss of Nolan Wells. Our thoughts and prayers are with Nolan's family. Our son Warren loves Nolan dearly. Unfortunately, I feel that it is appropriate for our family to dispel some rumors with facts based upon the social media attention that is being diverted away from the Wells family and their loss. No one in our family is trying in any way to impede with the investigation by law enforcement or to otherwise hamper the family and law enforcement quests for answers. Warren was interviewed by the Jackson County Sheriff's Department and cooperated fully.
Judges often go out of their way not to make public statements because they're judges. And it is interesting that she's making this statement. And I will give you 10-1. Jackson County is probably a small enough place, figuratively, if not literally, where I will give you 10-1 that she knows, or the prosecutor, She knows the prosecutor knows her. She knows the investigator, the investigating agency, or the investigating agency knows her, and she knows the coroner's agency, or the coroner's agency knows her. So when you put all of that together, and I'm the family of this deceased, that doesn't necessarily put me at ease. I think there's two things that you can agree with right now between those families and those parents. I don't believe either of them wanted the son dead. Okay. And I believe that they both understand that the judge doesn't want her kid to go to jail either. So all of this is going on, which makes transparency related to the investigation all the more important. And even though she framed it as something that would divert attention back to the family, she's talking about the family's grief. She's not talking about the family's justice. So there's a difference there in terms of what it is that's happening. How you see things depends on from where you sit. And I don't think she had to put her toe in the water at all. She decided to, but I think that says a lot as well, potentially.
Along with this, Ashley shared several screenshots of alleged death threats to her son and others following Nolan's death.
For anybody, your viewers, we need to try to keep the chatter and the conspiracy theories to a minimum. We do need to find out what happened to Nolan from 3 o'clock until he was last seen. His family has a right to know exactly what happened and how he met his final moments. But there's his friends who he's been friends with since he was a little kid are getting death threats from people who are accusing him of horrible things. And right now we don't know anything. We have to let law enforcement do their job and come out with the facts. And that's what we're asking the public to do.
According to People magazine, as recently as Thursday, the FBI began investigating these death threats. A spokesperson released a statement saying, in part, "From day one, we have been supporting Jackson County as they've worked to gather information and find answers for the Wells family and the community. The FBI will remain ready to assist JCSO investigators as they request our support, particularly when federal resources may expand their capacity to provide clarity and peace of mind for Nolan's loved ones." And that's really where we are right now, waiting on the first initial autopsy results, later the toxicology, and later still the independent autopsy results. Really, we're just at the start of the investigation.
Well, I would expect that the forensic examination of phones and other electronic media is likely to take weeks, could even take months, depending on the amount of data involved. And it also has to do with the amount of personnel that are available to review all that data. That could be in itself very time consuming. The autopsy itself, at least the preliminary autopsy, both the official one and the private one commissioned by the family, should be complete or close to complete now or very soon. But there's additional steps like looking at toxicology, for example, that may take, again, additional weeks. So that's going to take a while. I think that probably additional potential witnesses may be identified besides the group of friends that went to the island with Mr. Wells. Those interviews may take additional days and weeks. They're probably going to be re-interviews as they gain information from one person that requires them to go back and clarify or confirm information with somebody they've already talked to. So I think we're probably talking about a matter of weeks, both for the Jackson County Sheriff's investigation and hopefully for the independent investigation sought by the family and by Mr. Crump. So I'm hoping it's not going to be too much longer than that. The tough thing about a case like this is sometimes even after all the information is in, you don't have a clear answer. I mean, for example, if the determination is that he drowned, well, that's a cause of death. It's not a manner of death, right? You could drown accidentally, you could drown by suicide, you could drown by homicide. So we might, at the end of the day, have all the facts in and still not have an answer that satisfies the grieving family or other people that are concerned about what happened.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot to take in with this case. So many facts, the timeline, the information, a lot going on. But there is one person who's been following this really since the start, and that's Law and Crime's very own Jesse Weber, host of Sidebar, joining us today on Scandal. Jesse, thank you for coming back on. It's so great to see you.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. I think this is a case that needs a lot of attention, and I think it's also really, really confusing. And there's a lot of back and forth misinformation. So I'm happy to come on and talk about what I seem to know at this point.
And you're the person who I wanted to talk to most for this, because this has obviously been going on since 4th of July. It's now mid-July, believe it or not. There's been updates, and I've been watching all the sidebars, following along. So let's wind back the clock. Start with your first coverage of it. I mean, what are your initial thoughts on this case?
Look, it's a really upsetting, unfortunate case. Whatever the results tend to be, or whatever the investigation develops about why Nolan Wells died, it's a tragedy. 18 years old, athlete, college football player, beloved by his family, beloved by his friends, by the way, too. And it just seems, whatever the circumstances of why this happened, hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it. But a young life was lost. He was just supposed to be out celebrating with friends before he goes back to school, before he goes back to football practice. And it's a really, really upsetting situation. And I have to tell you, I really feel terrible for the family, because this is not only a family that's trying to grapple with the idea of losing their spotlight on them and on this case in a very unique way.
I mean, when you think about the logistics of it all, I mean, he's 18, so he's legally an adult, but you and I, winding back our own clock, when we're 18, we feel like we're adults, but we're still kids, you know? And he was doing everything right, hanging out. I went to the beach on 4th of July. Everyone went to the beach on 4th of July, having a great time. And then for his parents and his family to have to go through and, as you said, grapple with all of this. Plus, there's a law enforcement of it also. Okay, let's talk about the investigation. To a lot of people, that his phone, his keys are with his friends. They're not with him. What are your thoughts on that?
You might say it's odd. You might say it's odd that if you take the narrative that he left the boat to go talk to some girl on Horn Island and follow her, why wouldn't he take his stuff with him? Now, his friend, Mr. Shepard, Tristan Shepard, spoke with ABC News and I think also Rolling Stone and basically said, it's not unusual. You're going into salt water. You wouldn't take your phone with you. If you look, there's a million phones. All the friends' phones are all on the boat. And who else is he going to be communicating with? He's communicating with everybody there. Now, there's some who say, look, he's a teenager. How does he not have his phone with him 24/7? If he's talking to a girl that maybe he just met or wasn't that familiar with, wouldn't he want to get her number? Maybe I don't know the circumstances of that. By the way, she hasn't publicly come out. Ben Crump has indicated, who represents the family, that they have spoken with her, and she may give a kind of a different narrative about what their relationship was like or what their conversation was like. But I think the way to look at it is, yes, it's unusual. We understand that it was Nolan's family who was able to recover his phone using the Life 360 app, and that the phone was with his friends. So I think I get why there's confusion. I guess why there's area, right? It's only accessible by boat. There's no commercial development. Is it unusual that if you're going on and off a boat that you wouldn't have your phone? But again, what's the end result? He didn't have his phone and he apparently didn't come back with his friends on that boat, which is strange.
I mean, when you put it that way, I actually was thinking about this. Every summer I do this girls trip with my friends from college. We go to the lake and I'm thinking about it. I leave my phone on the boat. It's not with me because I'm going to get it wet. I'm clumsy. I'm going to drop it in the water. All of us, we're hanging out with friends. We're talking to each other. We leave our boats we leave our phones on the boat. So when you point it out like that, okay, that kind of makes sense. But this next part doesn't make sense to me. The reports that I've seen that some of the messages or Snapchats or photos, things have been deleted. What can you tell me about that?
So I think that's not coming officially from law enforcement. That's coming from Nolan's family. Why they believe that, not entirely sure. But look what's happening. Ben Crump announced this week that he and law enforcement have agreed that there will be a mutual inspection of the phone, meaning the state's investigators and the family's own private investigators and experts will review the phone. And one of the interesting aspects about phone and digital data as a piece of evidence, it can be easily recovered. Whereas if, for example, you have let's say an article of clothing that the DNA could be compromised, fingerprints can be compromised. If someone deletes information off of a phone or off an app, you and I both know this as covering a million cases, that's not deleted forever. And there is evidence of something being removed or deleted, which in and of itself can be a key piece of evidence. So the fact that you're going to have two, mutual examinations of the phone, I think is going to be quite critical. Now, what is that going to lead to? I'm not entirely sure. Is anything on that phone going to provide a piece of evidence as to what actually happened to Nolan? Maybe, maybe not. I'm skeptical of that. But at the very least, this is a development that they at least have his phone, which we know in a number of different cases, particularly missing persons cases, sometimes you don't have that. So I think it'll be interesting to see what the phone shows.
Yeah, I mean, if something really was deleted from the phone, is that consciousness of guilt? Why would it have been deleted? What happened there? I mean, there's a lot of questions. And okay, we keep talking about this because that piece of information, you're right, came from Ben Crump, who obviously Nolan Wells' family has retained. They've been pretty outspoken. So let's talk about Ben Crump. I mean, he's a very famous name when it comes to this type of case. Why do you think they went and retained him or got in contact with him?
It's a great question. Ben Crump is a big name. He is a big name. He makes a lot of noise. He makes public statements. He brings attention to these cases. And if the goal for the family is to not only have a lawyer be a middle person or conduit to get information from law enforcement, but also to help retain experts and retain the services of an independent medical examiner, because we know that they're sending Nolan's body to Washington, D.C. for an independent autopsy. The value of a Ben Crump is it brings attention to this case. And if you do not believe that the Mississippi authorities are going to be thorough in this investigation, if there is a concern that they automatically jumped the gun and said, oh, there's no foul play, and they're going to wipe their hands and move forward from it, if you bring him in and he's like, wait a minute, no, I'm going to hold press conferences. Everybody's now talking about Nolan Wells. It puts more pressure on law enforcement to conduct a thorough investigation. It doesn't mean that they're going to be pressured to say that someone killed Nolan or someone was responsible for his death, but it's going to put pressure on them to make sure they are thorough and dedicate the appropriate resources, because this is a family that's hurting and this is a family that wants answers.
I mean, you're right. It has drawn attention. I mean, you've done how many sidebars on this case? There's article after article. People are talking about it at the very least. And I guess I wanted to ask you too about this second autopsy. So of course there's the official one that's conducted, through law enforcement, through the ME, I should say. And now this second one is being conducted too. Now, the findings of this, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but let's say there is a criminal case here. The findings of this second autopsy, would they automatically be allowed in, or how would that even work?
So right now, in order to determine whether there's criminal charges, it all really depends what the state medical examiner is going to determine. If the state medical examiner looks at the body, and I think there could be a little bit of complications there because we still don't even know where Nolan died or when, right? Like, did he die in the water? Did he die in a boat? Did he die on land? But even in those circumstances, if you're talking about a drowning, would his body be able to provide answers about whether he was held down, whether he was pushed into the water? If there's trauma, and I believe the sheriff has come out and said there was no obvious signs of homicidal trauma, it can be difficult to know exactly what happened to Nolan. But if there's something from the state medical examiner's investigation, their autopsy, that determines that he was killed, that there was foul play, that's when you see charges. Now, if they determine they don't see anything, by the way, they're also waiting for toxicology results, which would be interesting as well. But if they don't determine anything, it would be the DA's prerogative to say, we don't think that there's a crime that's been committed. Whereas if the private investigation, the private autopsy determines, no, we found signs of trauma, those will obviously be presented to the DA's office and they'll have to consider it. But you see, how many times do we cover cases, trials, where you have different medical examiners determining different, they have different conclusions as to the cause and manner of death. So it does become a question. Do they present this case to a grand jury? Do they want to move forward with charges? If there is a discrepancy, though, and that becomes public, that there's a discrepancy between the autopsies, this case isn't going anywhere anytime fast. And it's going to raise a lot more questions and put a lot more pressure on law enforcement.
Okay, I'm glad you put me in my place because I did jump ahead. And
Did you? I don't even know that. Did you? I don't even think you did.
You did. You're the one who's schooling me on this. And I'm glad for it, Jesse, because we got to talk about the grand jury. I kind of skipped right over that and we got to talk about it. So recently when Ben Crump and his team came out, they did a press conference. They said everybody's going to be present when they're extracting information from this, etc. And it sounds like after that, things could be taken to a grand jury. And here's where things get kind of crazy.
Hi, Rose. Somebody knows. Tucker, are you still talking about the autopsy? We're gonna get into that tomorrow, honey. We're gonna get more into the We're gonna get into the autopsy tomorrow, okay? I'm pissed they unlived him and tried to hide the evidence. How you doing, Rose? Good to see you.
Crazy because it's not like we can live stream this. It's not like we're going to know the date because grand jury proceedings are secretive, obviously. So what would all of that look like? I mean, do they even have to bring charges? I mean, the DA's office, if the grand jury says, yeah, I mean, give me your thoughts on the grand jury of it all.
So assuming this is true, because I don't believe that the DA herself has come out and said this, but assuming this is true, and it wouldn't be unusual for something like this to happen. Remember, end of the sheriff's investigation, the DA's office will present it to a grand jury. They have no obligation to. They have to see if they believe there's probable cause that a crime was committed. If they choose to present it in front of a grand jury, which, as you said, is a secret proceeding, the standard is much lower. The grand juries are not coming back and trying to find that a crime was committed beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just whether or not there's sufficient probable cause. You just need a majority of jurors, not a unanimous jury. If they come back, it does become a question, what would the charges be? You know, if I'm talking about the death of Nolan Wells and I'm talking about a grand jury, people say, oh my gosh, murder charge, manslaughter, negligent homicide. You could be right, maybe. I mean, there could be different theories about who contributed to Nolan's death, if anyone, in what degree. But also, don't automatically assume that charges would be related to his death directly. There could be tampering with evidence. There could be lying to police. There could be a charge that's part of the investigation that's not directly related to Nolan's death. So a couple things again. One, we'll see what the results of the sheriff's investigation are. We'll see if they present the case to a grand jury. It's not always indefinite that a grand jury would even return with an indictment. They always say, you know, a grand jury will return an indictment against the ham sandwich because the standard's so low, but not always a guarantee. And if there are charges, don't automatically assume that it's just going to be a homicide-related charge. It could be something else as well.
That's a great point. I mean, we've talked about the cell phone. We've talked about potentially or reportedly, allegedly deleted messages. So there's a lot of different possibilities.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying anybody committed a crime. I'm not saying anybody deleted evidence or lied to police, but just something I'm thinking about.
Yeah, totally. We just have to kind of keep our minds open for all of this. And that leads into my next question too, is it was really interesting that early on, authorities came out and said there's no signs of foul play. I mean, they did say his body doesn't show any like severe signs of trauma or anything that would stand out immediately. They said no foul play. And that kind of got the ball rolling where people are like, okay, is this investigation really being handled correctly? And now, obviously, we've talked about how the first autopsy, the second, the tox report, all of these things. What sort of info do we want to come out? Like, what are our questions that we want answered now?
So first of all, I think it's interesting that they made that statement. And I also think it's interesting. I think the governor came out like recently this week, first time commented on Nolan Wells and said, look, I don't have all the details. I don't know everything about it, but there's nothing I've seen that indicates foul play. I heard that clip first last night on News Nation. I talked about it in my sidebar show today. Chris Cuomo, after listening to that clip, goes, then why are you talking? Why are you talking unless you know? That's fair, right? Like, why make a statement like that? Whereas, you know, some people could, law enforcement could say, you know, I mean, basically, they would defend themselves and say, look, there's no foul play. This is an investigation. Okay. What do we want to know? First of all, we want to know what if everybody's been tight-lipped, except for a Shepherd, Nolan Wells' friend.
Yeah.
Everybody else, we don't know what anybody's been saying. We have no idea what the accounts are. Are they consistent? Are they conflicting? The girl, the young woman that Nolan was apparently talking to, he left a problem. Do their statements match up to the timeline? That's number one. Number two, the autopsy. Is there any indication of foul play? Is there any indication of trauma to Nolan Wells at all? And again, a body being in the water in that environment could also make it difficult as well. These are the questions that, more than anybody, the family needs to know. The family needs to know what happened to their son. And so those are the things that we're going to be looking for. When we'll get those answers, not entirely clear. You know, Ben Crump said that the results of the independent autopsy were going to come out last week, but then said, no, it's delayed because there was problems with like cancellation of flights. Maybe we'll get the results of the independent autopsy before the state medical examiner autopsy, because I know they're waiting for toxicology results. But those are the things that we have to be looking out for and seeing what the sheriff has to say about the investigation as well.
I mean, I think you said something there that's really poignant, that this case isn't going anywhere anytime soon, because first and foremost, the family wants and deserves answers. Those closest to him. I mean, we talked about it at the top of our interview, the fact that everyone's saying this guy was so charismatic. He was so fun. He was so great. And for a life to be cut short at 18, we want to know why, what happened. And I guess there's another aspect in all of this too, that I just saw reports that the FBI is investigating. This is according to People. They just put out an article yesterday that there have been death threats to some of the friends or people who were involved. And I know we've talked about it in my episode. You had it on your sidebar episode, the fact that Ashley Cole, one of the judges, came out and spoke about these death threats, whatever. I mean,
because her son was apparently there that day.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, two things happening at once, right? Like FBI, according to outlets like TMZ, have been investigating threats. They wouldn't say who they're directed to, and they wouldn't say what those threats are. So are they the same thing? I don't know. They could be different. But my understanding is, look, two parts about this. And I think also the FBI might be examining some of the digital evidence in this case too, which is good because they have great resources.
Right.
This is a case that has taken on a life of its own. This is a case that has really spurned a lot of conspiracy theories, spurned a lot of opinions. There are people who already have made conclusions, which I think is upsetting to say the least. And I would just say, wait to see what happens. Just wait to see what happens. Don't take matters into your own hands. There's already a lot of eyeballs on this. There's already a lot of, it seems to me you have two separate investigations, the family's independent investigation and law enforcement's investigation. These witnesses are being questioned one way or another. They're going to get to the bottom of it, or hopefully get to the bottom of it one way or another. Just let's take a step back, because the worst thing that's going to happen is if the public gets involved in an improper way. And I'm not saying don't show interest in it. I'm not saying don't put pressure on law enforcement to give you answers. But if you start harassing the different players that are involved, that's make the case and affect the case. Don't do it. Just watch what happens, research, study, follow our coverage of it, but do not directly contact or harass or threaten anyone involved. There's no good that can come from that whatsoever, particularly if at the end of the day, if everybody's on the same page that this was just a tragic accident and that he may have fallen and drowned, although the family does raise very interesting, conversations about this, questions about this. If he was a top-tier athlete, knew how to swim well, there's people all out there, how did they nobody see anything? These are fair questions.
I mean, I think you're right. You and I both have covered so many cases where social media, takes it and runs. And then there's misinformation that's spread. And to your point, it could damage the integrity of the investigation, which here is of the utmost importance. We just have to be patient, sit back and wait, and hopefully the facts kind of come together, because at the very least, the family deserves all of that.
And this is not attacking people who have built channels or built followings following cases, not at all. But there's a difference between doing that and throwing out things or taking a narrative or an opinion that's not backed up by evidence. I mean, I'll tell you right now, if I wanted Sidebar to triple in views, I could do that. I could have a headline, "This person's responsible," and just show but
that's unethical.
That's not what we do. And it's very easy to do that on social media.
Honestly, that's why I wanted you on the show, Jesse, because you do such a good job. I mean, we talk in the morning meetings. You are fact checking every episode. You're going through and making sure we have all of it. So when I look to Sidebar, I'm like, okay, Jesse Weber has it covered. He did all the research. Here are the facts. We're putting it together. So truly, thank you for coming on Scandal and walking us through and giving us your take on this case.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for covering it. You do a great job. Let's see where it goes.
And that's where today's episode of Scandal leaves us for now. If you like what you saw and you want to see more or connect with me on social media, you can find me on places like Instagram at Sierra Gillespie. Thanks for watching today's episode of Scandal. As always, I'm your host, Sierra Gillespie, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, y'all, that's gonna be it for today. It's funny how they are not mentioning anything about the loans. Well, we're gonna like I said, I'm going to research and try to get that digital copy of the autopsy. If all this fails, if I can't get a hold to it before tomorrow, we'll go back through the actual press conference where they talk about it, and we'll go from there. We're gonna talk about the autopsy. We're also gonna talk about I got a live schedule for about 30 minutes on the T channel, Miss Ann. Yes. We're gonna talk about the autopsy. We also gonna talk about the funeral, amongst other things. So yes, we will be discussing those. Today I pretty much just played everything to get caught up on, well, we're still not all the way caught up, but to get mostly caught up on what has been taking place since last week. And yeah, I appreciate y'all supporting the line. I appreciate y'all supporting the live stream today. If you didn't double tap the screen to like the live, please do so on your way out. If you're in here and you like the content, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to be notified whenever I go back live. I will be back live tomorrow morning. With one of I don't even know if I got a mod in here to drop my T channel in case anybody wants to support my T channel. If a mod is in here, they'll drop the link. If not, I'll drop it tomorrow. But anyway, I will see you all tomorrow. We'll get more into the discussion. I'm gonna just say this too, though, to end the live, right? Thank you, Miss Lynn. So there's the channel, the link to my T channel for anyone that likes to talk about YouTube tea or whatever, real life tea, whatever. Join me over there in Truth Hurts, all tea, no shade. Now, what I will say to end this live, the fact that the state has not released their autopsy report is weird. It's strange. The fact that even though the independent autopsy report has been dropped, still no answers, still more questions than answers. I feel like each side is playing in the face of the public to some extent. I feel like, hold on a minute. All right, so yeah, I think it's weird, and I think that both sides are moving very strategically in this situation. I feel like to a certain extent that both sides are, playing. When I say playing in the face of the public, I mean, not putting everything out, withholding certain things. They're moving according to how each other move. Now, the fact that the state still, these people don't have a whole independent even though them coming out with their autopsy probably was a little premature. to be honest, because I don't even understand at this point why there's no toxicology reports. You know what I'm saying? And then you got them coming out saying they couldn't even tell whether or not it's the missing neck, throat, whatever for me. All that stuff. And still, with that being said, it's still more questions than answers. Like they still don't know. His death has been determined. His manner of death, cause of death, all that undetermined. And we still waiting on the results from the first autopsy, which hadn't been released. It's just a whole lot of. And this thing ain't gonna go away no time soon. So, as long as it's out there, we're gonna be talking about it. I would have thought at this point it would be some type of we would at least know how the young man passed away. While we sitting up here, justice for Nolan, we got to know that he was unalived and not just drowned. But ain't nobody giving no answers. Ain't nobody giving no straight up answers. But like I say, everybody's doing everything the way they're doing it for a reason. So with that being said, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about it some more. Sure will, because like I say, I don't see it going away anytime soon, all right? So with that being said, listen, thank y'all so much for supporting this live. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow. Shout out to my moderators, my new subscribers, and everybody that supported this live stream, all right? Until next time, listen. Okay. Y'all be safe, be blessed, never stressing. Until next time, all right? Truth seekers, stand up, and we out. Y'all have a blessed, beautiful rest of your day. See y'all tomorrow.